That's helpful.
All right, we're live.
It's like you know me. It's like you
What's
know what
up,
I'm going to
everybody?
say before I say it. Hi.
Hey.
Did you know I was
Okay,
going to say that?
I'll do all your answers for the show.
Oh, man. Could you imagine?
I mean, probably I can guess most of them. It's pretty rare that, like, any player that's kind of like is doing something they haven't done before, you'll probably be like, oh, it's probably not going to keep up. You know, when I'll bring up how Hyman has actually kept up when the thought was that he wouldn't be able to sustain what he was doing. And then you'll be like, well, we were still right to assume he wouldn't, even though it turned out that he did. Like, you have that
I
thing.
actually don't. I think we should check the accountability channel.
Yeah.
I'm
I
pretty
remember.
sure. I thought his power play shooting was a little high,
Right.
but I said for
Let
the
me think
most
of.
part he can keep doing it.
Trying to think. Do we have a good cold streak that I know you'll be like not worry about? I don't know. Okay, well, as we go, that could be a fun little game. I'll let you know if you surprise me. But I mean, which is good. I mean, because I'm looking at the same data as you, right? It's not a. You'd hope that you wouldn't surprise too much. Otherwise, they're probably, we're all just doing the same thing here.
Hmm.
I don't even know. I guess that's not a good advertisement for the show. Thanks everyone for joining for the live show. Maybe we could have, but yeah. So, sorry for the odd time in the afternoon for those of you watching live, but maybe Matt said it's fun to have an afternoon game. So yeah, we'll have some fun here. And then we'll all watch the hockey games tonight. But yeah, you ready to dive into this, pal?
I got my goggles.
Okay.
Got my swim trunks.
Count us in for the recording.
All right.
Oh, though I forgot, I can also record. You know what? Where's that button again? One sec. Recording. Record locally for each part. Please note recording settings are disabled while live. Oh, I blew it. I should have turned on the record. Oh, well, whatever. We'll just record
Can
separately.
we pause live?
Oh, yeah. Well, if I end stream, will I have to make like a new stream and like give people a new link and all of this? I don't think. Yeah, no, we can't pause live. All right. Well, whatever. We'll just do what we always do.
Which is
Record
crush
on
it.
Audacity. Yeah, and that. Okay. So, ready to go? Count me in.
I'm gonna. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, record.
All right. Recording. Oh, so Matt is saying that we said. Okay, so great. So Hyman's the best.
Wow.
All right.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Matt Corey.
Who's
Have,
Corey?
has
Oh,
has
Corey
Matthew
Schwab.
become Matt?
I thought it was. I don't know. Most Matthews we end up calling Matt, right? Are there
Meet
any
Matt
hockey
Corey.
players? Do we say Matthew Barzal?
Yeah.
Kind of lame.
We say
Matthew
Austin
Dumba?
Matthews.
That's true. Austin Matts. We can get to him. All right. Let's do this. Oh, I don't have a joke.
Austin
Oh, okay.
Matt
I got it.
Sundin. What? It's crazy.
What's the name of this holiday again? Oh, St. Patrick's Day. Okay.
Oh, I was gonna be like Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak, by the way.
I don't thank you. Okay.
It's not.
So-
It's not to you.
okay. Well, to the world.
Mm.
All right. Yeah! Yes! Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who are green with envy on this St. Patrick's Day. For all the couple players who have made their playoffs, Brian and I will be watching from the outside, even though I had the second highest points for in my division. But whatever, okay. We're having a good time here, and this is going to be a very exciting episode of Keeping Karlsson because I'm here with my very good friend, the fantasy hockey robot, the Poobah prognostication, the IPP MVP, and we're going to be talking all about what's going on in the NHL as we're all preparing for our fantasy playoffs, consolation playoffs, our friends being in the playoffs while we're crying because we didn't make it. It is the great Brian Kahn. Brian, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Len. Thanks. It's great to be back. You and Steve knocked it out of the park last week. So much. There was I was kind of jealous. There was so much to dig into. I think there's still enough. And now we've seen we have a little more data of players who have moved teams and what we've seen. So I'm happy to at least get some of the trade deadline fun. But yeah, for holding it down in the meantime. Hey, I can't hear you. It's probably my problem, not yours, considering I just had a whole lot of problem. Oh, okay,
Oh,
chat.
I'm here now. I'm
Oh,
here. I'm here.
okay.
Sorry, I was muted while you were.
What happened?
I don't know. You disappeared.
This new cable.
It's not working. Well,
Well,
you
it
disconnected completely from the StreamYard. I don't know if that's the audio cable that
I
could do
don't know.
that.
I don't know. I'm just checking my recording because sometimes when things change
Do you
on the
want to
fly
just
like
start
that.
over? It's pretty early on.
No, it looks okay to me. Well, we can start. Like I can do my part again.
But like, should we restart the recording? Do you think?
No, it looks okay. Like everything's showing up where it should be.
All right.
Check, check. Hello.
Okay, let's do it. So I said, what did I say?
You
We're
said,
here with Brian
"Hey,
Com.
welcome back,"
Welcome back.
and we're wiping away our tears. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm on the outside looking in with you, and not with the second best points for, although with a respectable points for, that's better than at least one playoff team in my division. But that's how the cookie crumbles,
There
right?
you go, pal.
And
You did
I
it.
felt a little on the outside looking in last week too. Well, you and Steve just crushed it with all the trade deadline stuff, and Steve with his like wild analogies. If that's like metaphors, similar, like I'm not even sure what kind of what the right idiom term is to. But
Maybe it
thank
was
you.
idioms.
Maybe express, yeah, turns of phrase, whatever. It was great. I can only hope to match it this time around. And there's still, I think, plenty of trade deadline. Like there's still some action and some observations to come as players rack up some games with their new team. So I'm ready to go. Hey, I might be on the outside of my cupful league, but I'm in it in at least one other, and I can't wait to help everybody here stay in it if you're in it now, or get ready to be in it next year. Let's go.
Yeah. The best thing about having like a league that's the most important to you is that as soon as you're eliminated, the next league becomes the most important to you, and that other league is like, who cares about that? So yeah, switch into dynasty mode. So this whole episode's going to be about fringe players. We'll talk about how Rempe got suspended and how now I don't know who are some fringe guy. Okay, I'm losing it here. Some guy got called up from Columbus and had 5 hits yesterday. But anyway, okay. So Brian, no, for real, like you said, it's been a week or so since the trade deadline. And yeah, we'll go through kind of what's been going on in the past week. A lot of the players we'll talk about have been players who moved or were affected by various trades. And obviously, of course, Brian, feel free to jump in on any takes that you had thoughts on from last week as we go. We'll go through every team as per usual, presented by DobberHockey.com, where we got a lot of good info about the trade deadline. I really enjoy that site, especially at that time. And obviously, the tools of Frozen Tools are amazing. Yeah, and I've got the schedule here, Brian, for these next 3 weeks. For the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, we're going to playoffs next week. It's 3 weeks. And so for everyone listening, I thought the order of teams we can go by is just the best schedule to the worst schedule. And obviously that's a bit subjective and depends on some things. So I'm looking at the most games played over the next 3 weeks. And then for the tiebreaker, it's the number of light days. I'm counting a light day as like fewer than 20 teams playing. But don't worry about it. We'll just talk through every team. And the teams near the top are the teams maybe you want to be more excited about having players from because you're getting more games, or maybe you're going to want to stream from if we're talking about some fringe guys. So why don't we get started, Brian, with the team that Jeremy and I talked about like a month or so ago when we did our matchup maximizer episode all about the playoffs. And we were drooling over the Washington Capitals because they've got a great schedule coming up. They play Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday next week, the only team with 4 off-day games. Then they have a boring old Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the semis, and then another 4-game week, including 2 off days for the final. So now is the time to grab those caps. But the question, of course, is which ones are we going for? Well, I mean, the lines have kind of been interesting, and it's hard to know what will last for how long. But for now, at least in yesterday's win over Vancouver, it was Connor McMichael centering the top line of Ovechkin and TJ Oshie. And McMichael's got himself a little bit of a hot streak. He's got 3 points in his last 3 games. He's in a good spot. So, Brian, how excited are you about him compared to, there's other options. Obviously, like a lot of players might be available to people to add on Washington. Like Pacioretty has been, up and down. He's been playing just on the third line, not on the top power play. There's Hendricks Lapierre, who got a run with Ovi on the top line. He was on the top power play in the last game, even though he's not on the most exciting even strength line. There's still Dylan Strome, who's unfortunately centering a line of Wilson and Miroshnichenko, which, that's a good prospect for the future. Yeah, so it's kind of like all over the place where there's not like an obvious player aside from Ovechkin and I guess maybe TJ Oshie, at least in terms of deployment. Oshie was playing on line one, power play one, though he's just coming back from injury, and he could be a risky person, especially with only 1 point in his last 4 games and could get hurt anytime. With all that said, Brian, what are your thoughts on who are your caps to target going into the fantasy playoffs with this amazing schedule?
It's rough. I have TJ Oshie, and he was doing all right for a while. Like, he was actually really great coming back from injury the first time. He pointed in almost every game when he came back, including several multi-point outings. He was outstanding, and then he's done nothing for 4 games, including barely shooting. In his last 3 games, Oshie has just 4 shots combined, no hits to speak of, no scoring to speak of. He is a +1, but that's it. These are near cardio sessions that we're seeing from Oshie. And last game, that was Saturday, Oshie played just under 15 minutes. Which was so I wonder how healthy he is, because he's not always been a huge shooter, and I don't find his current shot rate so far out of line with the usual. But I would love to see him point a little more often. When he was pointing, he was still just taking 1 or 2 shots most of the time, but the power play was clicking. So I think I'm sticking with Oshie against some of my better judgment. I kind of just want to pull the plug and say forget it. But like you said, that deployment seems worthwhile. Tom Wilson has started doing just a couple things. He's got 3 goals on his last 7 shots, but only 2 shots in his last 3 games, including playing just 12 minutes against Vancouver and no power play time to speak of. So he's maybe a deeper cut. Dylan Strome is another cap who you probably would have liked to see do a little bit more lately. Actually, describing Strome is very similar to describing Oshie. And actually, they're so similar that I confused Oshie. Oshie played 21 minutes on Saturday night, my bad. And Strome was the one who played 15 minutes. But both of their ice times are fine, I guess. I'm not worried about Strome being injured, but their shot count, like I said, very similar. So Strome and Oshie are 2 guys who I think should be doing better, but aren't. And then you have guys like Wilson, Pacioretty, Hendricks Lapierre, who could be deeper options if you want Sonny Milano. And of course, Connor McMichael. Yeah, if he stays up on the top line, that's good news. But really, I think in Washington, to be a meaningful producer, you've got to be on that top power play. And so I might even prefer, I see Lapierre and McMichael kind of split time with the top unit, with Lapierre getting a bit more of a share of total minutes there. So long as that holds, I'll just take the guy who's playing the most on power play 1 in Washington, which is Lapierre, but it could very well become McMichael before long. So to summarize all of that, I'd still take Oshie and Strome ahead of McMichael, but then I'd take McMichael and then Lapierre because he's on power play 1, and then I guess then you get your Pacioretty, Wilson, and I know you're excited about Miroshnichenko, but I'm not gonna.
No, I'm not.
Okay, all right.
Maybe for a dynasty league in the future. So that's Washington. I guess the other thing we'll mention is with this good schedule, all these games, you might want to grab a goalie, right? And Charlie Lindgren is hot right now. He has 2 straight wins with only 1 goal against. He's actually got his last 4 games have been really good. And Darcy Kemper, in contrast, has been very much less good, letting 7 goals in his last game. Though it was against Edmonton. It's not, maybe it was a little bit easier for Lindgren. Though he had to play Vancouver yesterday, which is not the easiest challenge. So, but anyways, I'd guess, if I were to guess right now, it's looking like Lindgren will play 3 of the 4 games next week. If I had to guess, obviously you never know with goalies. So if he's somehow out there, he was available in my couple division, I grabbed him hoping to get 3 games next week. And it's all on off days. So you don't have to, even if you already have 2 goalies, you might as well grab Lindgren because you're going to fit his games in as well.
Yeah, exactly. Lindgren seems to be, of the 2 goalies in Washington that you can rely on to not be so bad, Lindgren seems to be the one. Every time I've relied on him this year, though, he he's generally let me down, which just speaks to the sort of inconsistency that's plagued him. But yeah, I think that's a good look. If you're sort of on the like, if you didn't get in on any of the Caps forwards, don't forget about the goalies and Lindgren. I assume, for the first 3 games of the week, I assume he starts at least 2 because he's had some real clunkers and started again after that, whereas Kemper doesn't seem to have the same sort of regular thing. And I think Lindgren has been the better goalie this year, and Washington is like in the hunt.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like if they're 3 points back of Philly with 2 games in hand, and that's not even counting the wild card. They're 1 point back of Detroit with 1 game in hand. So they're going to need to win. I can assume that Lindgren gives them the best chance of winning each night.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, Philly and Detroit both not looking too good lately, so definitely Washington has a good chance. Okay, so there are 2 more teams that play 11 times over these next 3 weeks. The next one is the Ottawa Senators. Not as many light day games as Washington, but still a pretty good schedule. You get 4 games next week: Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. To get yourself started, it's a 4, then 3, then 4 games again in the finals. Looking at Ottawa, first of all, Brian, they're like basically doing the same thing they did last year. Like, be really bad until they fall out of playoff contention, and then start doing well right at the end of the season so that they can't get a high draft pick. Kind of like the most annoying strategy probably for Sens fans. Because, yeah, they've won 3 in a row now, looking pretty good. But as far as the players on the team that you may want to target, one guy that jumps out to me on the negative side is Jacob Chychrun is now pointless in 7 games. This is a guy who, like, I was really disappointed when I got sniped on him in the draft, in my fantasy draft at the start of the year for Cupful. And lately, and it's like, I wouldn't. It's one of these frustrating ones because you look at his stat line. It's like no points, but like lots of shots, lots of blocks, like all the stuff you would want. And then you just expect, oh, well, obviously something's going to go in soon. Look at all these shots he's taking, but game after game goes by and nothing from Chychrun. So if you had him in a league like the Cupful, you're getting the solid peripherals, but do you let go for someone who's actually producing?
Yeah, you do. Like, I have not been like a huge fan of Chychrun through the season, right? It's always been, I mean, he's filled out that Ottawa D, like fantasy relevant D mold very well, in that he hasn't been very relevant at all, and he's been generally inconsistent. And I don't I mean, there are a lot of games coming up for Chychrun, so that's one reason to be into him. He is still seeing pretty heavy minutes. Like, he played 25 minutes on Saturday night and is generally within a minute or 2 minutes of that range. The shots are coming, so that's reason. Like, he has 16 shots in his last 2 games to go with 10 blocks. Or sorry, over his last 4 games to go with 10 blocks. So there's reason to still enjoy Chychrun's peripherals. But the points, he has 3 in his last 20 games. And like, if I went back another 15 games, he'd also just have 3 points. So he's been really, really quiet basically since since Christmas. He took off for vacation and still hasn't quite returned. So you can hold on to him for those peripherals, and maybe you get a few points along the way. But I'm not that into Jacob Chychrun.
Yeah, and it's like normally all these shots aren't just a peripheral. Like, usually shots sometimes turn into goals, but with him, it's not happening. Or an assist, from a defenseman, they take a shot, there's a rebound, someone scores. I'd imagine he's better than this. Like, he's better than whatever, 1 assist in his last 14, 15 games, whatever it is now. Like, maybe over these next 11 games, I could see him getting like 4 or 5 points. So, with the peripherals, I think it's like, I don't know if I'd like for sure drop him with a lot of games and with that floor. Like, in the Cupful, we're looking at like maybe like 2 fantasy points per game, even if he doesn't get a point. But yeah, it's like obviously very disappointing, and it'll be interesting to see what Ottawa does with him, right? He has 1 more year until he becomes a UFA. And I've heard lots of rumors, there were thoughts that he might get traded at this deadline, maybe in the summer. So he'll be a fun guy to follow. I wanted to mention also quickly Shane Pinto. There's going to be a theme on this show, Brian, of the guys we were drooling about just a couple weeks ago that ever since have like listened to our show and we're like, okay, I want to make them look bad, so I'm going to stop producing. And Shane Pinto definitely fits the mold. He was crushing it, and now he's only got 1 assist in his last 4 games. That assist did come yesterday against the Islanders. The shots have started to dry up a little bit. Of course, it's a very small sample size, just over the past week where he's quieted down. Still in a good spot, though he hasn't been on the top power play in the last few games. So I don't know. At one point I was thinking like, oh, Pinto's like guaranteed you need to have him. Now, like, if you're looking at next week's schedule, and yeah, I said Ottawa plays a lot of games, but it starts with Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then Sunday. Like, if you can't fit him in, if you're benching people on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I don't see him as the most obvious hold that I did just a couple weeks ago. Muted. Muted, sorry. Still muted.
Okay, so my Audacity is recording while I'm muted, but
Do you
can't
have
hear
your
me.
mute key?
Yeah, and I restarted it and everything.
Oh, I should have done this. Okay, well, this
Do you
will be a
want to
fun
stop
edit.
the track and start a new one? Like, what do you
Sure,
want to do?
we can do that.
Okay.
Okay, one sec. KK. What's this episode? 529. A project. Okay. Close the project. New project. Yeah. Playback. Okay. All right. Count. Okay. Now let me change my edit times file. Mistake times.txt. Move that to mistake times.a1.txt. Okay. All right. I'm ready when you are. Count me in.
Okay, I'm just testing out. I'm like restarting Audacity just to make sure it's all gonna work. Check, 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 check. Check, check. Okay, we're good. All right,
Okay.
ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, record.
Okay. Recording.
All right, and Shane Pinto. You were saying
Yeah.
you like him.
No, I wasn't.
Oh,
I was saying that I thought a couple weeks ago I was so excited about him, and now he's not looking like a must hold, especially if he's playing on the busy days.
yeah. Okay. Sorry. All right. Pinto's still getting like second unit power play, which is nothing to write home about. Like we're not going to be excited about that, but he is more importantly seeing top line deployment alongside Batherson and Kachuk. His minutes are still pretty darn healthy, and yeah, the points have disappeared, but really like he had a 3-game cold stretch and he still took 7 shots over those 3 games, and then he had an assist against the Islanders on Saturday. So honestly, Elon, I don't think he's like so cold that you have to cut bait on him. I mean, if he's on the bottom of your lineup, then right, like he's not someone you need to hold on to just because that huge run, or that nice run that he's basically been having since he got to full health. But I still like his 5-on-5 deployment, and he hasn't been cold for that long, so I'm not fully giving up on Pinto. I'd sort of put him in the same category as Chychrun, as you mentioned, except Chychrun might be a little harder to replace with who's available in free agency.
Right. Okay. All right. So let's go to the last team here with 11 games over these next 3 weeks, the Edmonton Oilers. As far as next week goes, it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, just like the Sens. And then it's another then 3, then 4. No, not really many off day games, but volume is good, especially if you have like a McDavid, a Draisaitl, Hyman, RNH. You're excited to get all these games. And if you're in a multi-cat league, you're also so stoked right now about Bouchard, right? Holy cow. Did you see his stat line yesterday against Colorado? He had himself only an assist, but 8 shots and 4 blocks. And he hasn't even blocked that much. He had 3 games beforehand with no blocks. And then just went nuts. Looks like all of Edmonton was blocking a bunch of Colorado shots. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. They lost the game. But yeah, Bouchard is crushing it, as is McDavid and all of our big names. I saw that McDavid has been pointless in 2 of his last 4 games. McDavid didn't get a point yesterday against Colorado. But of course, in those other 2 of his last 4 games, he had 3 points in each of them. So still 6 points in the last 4 games. And McDavid is having this incredible season. Zach Hyman's never slowed down. He's like just continues to pick up hat tricks and just like scoring all these goals. He's phenomenal. I guess the guy that might be available to people that we need to talk about, and this is like, I don't know, deja vu probably, but currently the Oiler that we can talk about that in a week he'll be nothing again is Warren Foegele. So in the last game, he played with Draisaitl and McLeod for a bit, though they did shake things up. They put McDavid and Draisaitl together in the third period, but Foegele did score a goal. He also scored a goal in the previous game against Washington. He also scored a goal 4 games ago against Buffalo. So we're looking at 3 goals and 1 assist in Foegele's last 4 games, and it seems like for now, he's been getting top 6 treatment, while like Evander Kane and Adam Henrique have been on line 3. So, for all these games, and it seems like it would be good logic to say that you want players playing with McDavid or Draisaitl. Fogel's had little hot runs before. Maybe this is the start of one now.
Maybe. We'll see. Like the one thing that jumps out at me from that game against the Avs where Edmonton was blocking so much is that the Henrique, Connor Brown, and Evander Kane line got wrecked. at 5-on-5. They were out attempted 17-5 and outshot 12-1 in almost 10 minutes of ice time. In 10 minutes of ice time, they attempted 5 shots and only one actually touched the net. So that makes me wonder if Edmonton can really count on them to continue, or if Edmonton just like, screw it, like they can go on, they can suck, and we'll try and make up for it with the rest of the team, although that's not how things played out. But I like to see like Fogle when he goes on these little runs, he does shoot. That's helpful. He's got 13 shots in his last 4 games, 3 goals on those 13 shots, along with an assist. So he's someone to to try and stream in. But I think that's about it. Like, he's not someone to go rush out for, as we generally say, which is what we generally say about McDavid line mates. And I guess the flip side of this, just to mention more about this, like Evander Kane, he's been like pretty much useless for a while now. Whereas you might have been able to hope for 3 or 4 shots a game, even if the points didn't come. Kane has just 7 shots total in his last 6 games. And in 3 of those games, he had just a single hit as well. And the others, he had 3, 4, and 5. But really, Kane isn't even producing. Like before, it was like, yeah, well, Kane does just enough peripherally to be worth holding on to for when he hits the score sheet. And I would actually say he's fallen below that line now, playing on the 3rd line. Pretty meaningless power play time, too. I actually dropped him in Cupful to add Joseph. Well, I dropped 2 guys. I dropped Evander Kane and Logan Stankoven because I wasn't going to see them much in my lineup next week, for Joseph Woll and Timothy Littlegren. And so long, Evander Kane. I'm excited to see who
Go Leafs, go.
who puts in bids in my division next week on either one of those guys. I think Evander Kane's going to go unclaimed.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah. And hey, for the people who are even in leagues that count PIMs, I'm saying he hasn't even taken a penalty, which is probably good for the Oilers in 10 games now. He had 12 penalty minutes back on February 24th, and probably the coach at that point talked to him and said, hey, cut it out. And since then, he's been good. Like you said, not hitting much, not taking penalties, not shooting. Is he there? Is he playing?
He's barely there. Like it's crazy. He's spending 15 minutes on the ice, but I think it's like from the shot attempt numbers, it looks like most of them are in his own end.
Yikes. Okay, not a great season for Evander Kane. Yeah, makes sense to let him go until something changes. Okay, so next up, Brian, let's go to the Buffalo Sabres. Now we have a huge handful of teams that play 10 games over the next 3 weeks. That's going to be 2. So that'll be 1 4-game week and then 2 3-game weeks for these next 3 weeks. Buffalo does have a lot of off-day games, at least. They go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday next week. So that's pretty good. You get the Monday, the Sunday, and especially if you can fit a Tuesday or Thursday, that's not a bad streaming schedule. As, by the way, Jeremy reiterated, like I said, we did that playoff matchup maximizer episode like a month or so ago. Jeremy dropped a matchup maximizer just for next week earlier yesterday, right? So definitely check your Keeping Karlsson feed if you haven't listened to that. Jeremy always does an amazing job when he jumps in for the MM podcast. But yeah, Buffalo, a really good team to stream from. Of course, then we just got to dive into who are we going for. One player I definitely want to talk about is Bowen Byram. And like you said, Brian, Steve Laidlaw was awesome last week. I really enjoyed the show, and I thought he had some really good takes. He had a really interesting way of describing the situation in Buffalo, where I asked him about Byram and what kind of impact he could make with the other defensemen in the picture. And Steve was saying it's like you're going for dinner, and there's only like room for one main course, unless sometimes maybe there's surf and turf, but usually like there's one main. Anyways, I think in Buffalo right now, it's looking like this is the exception of surf and turf. I think Steve was saying that Byram was maybe like a spaghetti or something, but he's stuck on that top power play, which is a really good spot to be because he is with Tage Thompson, who's finally doing something, and Darlene, who's on a nice run. And yeah, Byram is there also, and Cousins and Tuck, by the way, I should complete, have been on that top power play. And we're looking at 5 points in 5 games now for Bowen Byram. Nothing yesterday when Buffalo lost a heartbreaker to Detroit. That was a game Buffalo needed to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. And Detroit was playing James Reimer, and they couldn't get anything by him except for 1 goal. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know if that game like changes things and all of a sudden things are going to swerve in the opposite direction. Before that, Byram was crushing it. And I think going into the fantasy playoffs, especially with the schedule, especially with Monday, Tuesday, even to start next week, he seems like a sure thing to like a sure thing in terms of like a good guy to add. No one is a sure thing except for maybe McDavid or McKinnon or something. But yeah, and then you look at the forwards. then it becomes very difficult. It's kind of like a Washington situation. In yesterday's game, these lines are all over the place. You have like Cousins with Benson and Greenway and Tuck, Thompson and Gergensons. I've already seen that they were changing up the lines again in recent practices. So who knows what's going to go with the forwards? But I do like Byram if he's somehow still out there for you.
Yeah, he's like, you pretty much just illustrated. He's like the clearest guy to add, Bowen Byram playing on the top power play unit in Buffalo. And really everybody else, like no one has been doing that well lately. Like no one jumps off the page. I was actually going to say like Jeff Skinner, he's off the top power play, right? But he actually leads the team in points in the last 2 weeks with 6 points in his last 8 games. But that's only because he had 1 3-point game against Vegas back on March 2nd, which is now, well, that's about to fall off his what's included in the data to generate this report. And then you have Owen Power with 6 points and 8, Bowen Byram with 5 points and 5, and then Zach Benson with 5 points and 8, and then nobody else in Buffalo is over a half point per game. So it's weird. Like we thought we'd have a little more to choose from, but I will at least throw out Zach Benson's name as somebody who, like, just maybe. I think at this point he has as good a chance to hit the score sheet as anybody else in the lineup. He's got 3 goals and 2 assists in his last 3 games. Those 3 goals have come on 6 shots. He's playing 15 minutes on what I would consider, I don't know, line 2B with Cousins and Greenway. Or maybe that's 2A, actually. These lines, as you said, Elon, are all over the place. So I'm not saying to add Benson before you add, like, I don't know, Skinner or Paterka, but I'm saying you can consider him in that same group. And it is disappointing. Like Jeff Skinner, I'll own it right now. I thought he was going to snap out of something, and I thought he was showing signs of it 2 weeks ago. And since then, he has just 2 points in 6 games, and he went 4 games with just 2 shots. And he's been playing less than 14 minutes now for, well, basically a week or 10 days. So
Skinner.
Yeah, it's a real bummer. Bad time for him to let everyone down. But I'd say it's even odds for basically the field here in Buffalo to help you produce.
Yeah, and it's Monday, Tuesday, so probably a lot of people are going to want to grab a Buffalo player if they have room on Tuesday. But yeah, it's tricky to say. I don't think my impression was very good. My Chalmers impression, like Skinner. So it's more like that, I guess. You probably know it better. You've watched more Simpsons than I have over the years. How do you do it?
Oh, I'm not good at impressions.
Skinner. Something
No,
like that.
it's Skinner.
Yeah,
It starts low and then okay.
I knew you could do it.
Thanks.
All right. Let's go to Colorado. So 10 games over these next 3 weeks. And they start off with a Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. So, yeah, I mean, you start slow, but then you get the 2 off-day games at the end of the week. Maybe you can wait until the Friday to stream someone in from Colorado. Obviously, the big names, you're not going to be able to stream in. One guy, speaking of defensemen like Byram, another guy who moved teams is Sean Walker, who had himself a 2-goal game. So that's not too bad in yesterday's win over the Oilers. Obviously a depth guy, but you never know. There was also a point earlier in the year where Walker was doing really well for Philadelphia. Then he quieted down. I don't know. He also had an 8-shot game a couple games back earlier this week against Calgary. So Sean Walker, if you need D, Brian, what do you think? Do you have any interest here?
Like a little, because he's on a team that produces, right? So that's why Sean Walker, and like he had some runs in Philly too, right? Where we thought he was up to something. I love the 8 shots that he had in his second game with Colorado, but his everything's been kind of uneven, and he's playing definitely like bottom 4 minutes, like probably closer to third pairing even than second pairing. So I don't want to get like overly invested in Sean Walker, but I will consider him if all the other D options are gone.
Okay, we're going to bring up later. Let's put a pin in Walker. I'm going to bring up Miro Manov later when we get to Calgary, who's someone a lot of people have been talking about. Be prepared. We're going to ask who you want more, but we'll dive into Miro Manov first. But or whatever. Actually, let me just do an edit point. Actually, Brian, I had a guy who I wanted to see who you prefer, Walker and someone else. Why don't I just jump really quickly to Calgary because there's another defenseman who's sort of come out of nowhere and doing stuff in Daniil Miromanov, who looks like he's taken over the top power play for the Flames, and he's like producing a little. I mean, just recently, right? He scored a goal in his game yesterday against Montreal and took 3 shots. He also had a goal a couple games ago, against Colorado, where he took 8 shots, similar to what Sean Walker did. I guess in that exact same game. I guess they both just took 8 shots from the D. So if you had a choice between Miro, and they both actually have similar schedules next week. Calgary is like Monday, and then they play again late in the week. And again, like Colorado is Tuesday, and then a couple games late in the week. So you're getting 3 games in the end. If you have both of them available to you, who excites you more between Walker and Miromanov?
Their numbers are freakishly similar going through what they've done with their new teams. But if I have to pick one, I am going to go with Miromanov because he's playing bigger minutes, not just in volume, but in quality too. Like you said, Elon looks like he's taken over the top power play. Saw an 83% share of Calgary's power play time against Montreal on Saturday. And Elon, that is good enough for me.
Okay, sold. Okay, let's go back to Colorado really quickly. So, Brian, Valerie Nichushkin is back. He's good. Colorado hasn't
The
lost.
whole team has gotten so much better since Nichushkin's been back. It's amazing the impact he has, like I've always said.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a bunch of embarrassing losses. Now Nichushkin is back. Doesn't happen anymore. 5 points in 4 games. There was that first game back. Nichushkin was like line 2, power play 2. I think I asked Steve about this, but it was like me asking as a host, not asking like I'm actually concerned about it. Like they're probably just easing him in, right? Like they totally were. Nichushkin's been playing line 1, power play 1 recently, which I guess is bad for Arturi Lehkonen, who was line 2, power play 2 in yesterday's game against Edmonton. But hey, Lehkonen had a goal and an assist. So I think you're happy with either of these guys. I mean, obviously you're happy with. I think it's like there's obviously a tier. You've got like your McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar. That's your top tier, and then I think Nichushkin is very close to that tier. Like, I don't know, very, whatever. He's like definitely like you want him everywhere, and then Lehkonen is still, I think, below Nichushkin, but probably worth rostering. Even though after Tuesday it's a bit of a long wait till Friday, but for a guy who's not on the top line or top power play, but Lehkonen I think has done enough for us that we have to still be interested.
Yeah, I think so. And that's it. Just stay interested. It's nice that Lehkonen has done this all at 5-on-5 too. His last 3 goals have come on 8 shots, so it's not necessarily like there's not huge production that we can expect to really see from Lehkonen. But again, he just came back, Elon, from missing some time, so we'll see. Like I feel like the lines could stay fluid in Colorado. They don't seem to really tend to stay the same way for very long. I'll also mention Jonathan Drouin in actually Lehkonen's whole line last night. Lehkonen, Middlestat, and Drouin all like reasonably productive. Drouin had himself an assist, a couple shots, a couple hits, and not to say that Drouin's like back like to what he was doing like a while ago. But he now has 6 points in his last 8 games. 7 points now, actually, with the point against Edmonton on Saturday. So I just say like he's not worth nothing, and if the games played help you, then he might be worth looking at. And Middlestat, has been a nice fit in Colorado with a goal and 2 assists, only 4 shots, in the 4 games he's played, but still a decent production and is seeing some time, sort of swapping in. Like last game, Colorado swapped Lehkonen and Middlestat in for Nichushkin and Drouin on the power play at one point. So if Middlestat can keep seeing at least like that sort of like 1A or 1B power play unit deployment, then that could make him certainly attractive.
All right. Yeah. And yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, and hey, look, if you have someone like a Drouin out there in free agency, like I said, it's Tuesday, Friday, Sunday next week, so maybe don't jump on Drouin now, but wait till Friday morning, and then that's not too bad, getting 2 off-day games in the last 3 games.
Do you know Sunday's not an off day?
Oh, no? Okay, let me check here. Oh, yeah, 20 teams playing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Saturday's an off day. Sunday's not. So that Tuesday, Friday, Sunday schedule for me is a no-go because it's just the one game. Did you realize this when you were doing Matchup Maximizer? Hello? You're muted.
Brian, Saturday is a busy day. It's not true what you said.
It's not that busy.
It's more games than Sunday.
Is it? Well, I
Have you
have
looked?
I personally have more lineup space in my
Okay, well,
leagues
you
on
can't do it. You can't do it by that. You have to do it based on the
Okay,
number of
but okay,
games.
well, so forget what I said about Sunday is not a light day.
Yeah.
Sunday
Do you
is
want to
like
just
Saturday part 2.
do you want to just take that part over and just correct me and say the Sunday isn't busy, but without the part where you're saying Saturday is the
Fine.
light day?
Sure.
Just so we don't spread misinformation.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, except Sunday. Oh, yeah, except Sunday is like a second Saturday this week. There's a lot of teams playing. You probably don't have any extra room in your lineup, and it's as heavy as really any of the heaviest days this week. So you'll
It's
get
not true.
you'll get a day.
Brian,
Yeah, it
why are
is.
you?
It's
Okay,
so heavy.
look at the number. Okay, just
I
because
can't get
you
guys in
happen
my
to
li-
have a.
I-
Okay, just
I've-
because you
my bench
look
is
at the number
full.
of games. There's 26 on Tuesday, 22 Thursday, 22 Saturday, and 20 Sunday. So don't say it's
That's
like
close enough.
heavier
It's
than the
about as
heaviest
heavy.
days.
It's a heavy day.
I love how you're basing this all on your specific roster.
Isn't that what you do?
No, I look at the number of
I
teams
was
playing.
joking. I was joking.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to keep this or do you want to?
No, I'm just gonna do it. I'll do it again. I'm gonna
Okay.
do it really boring. I'm gonna
Just
be
do
sure
it.
to say nothing except that
Just
Sunday.
say the actual truth.
Yeah, and Sunday's heavy. So. Okay.
Okay.
Sunday's actually a heavy day this week. So Drouin playing on Sunday may or may not help you. You better go make sure you can actually fit him in because Friday, Sunday, usually very attractive. This week, not as much. Sunday is not the heaviest day of the week, Elon, as you've told me off mic, but it is one of the heavier days this week. And my lineups are full on Sunday. So good luck
Yeah.
to you all.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that, Brian. Yeah, I guess I was just making an assumption here. Yeah, looking at it's 20 teams playing on Sunday. It might be like a borderline of whether you call that busy or not. So obviously, whenever we're recommending stuff for matchup maximizer streaming, you want to actually make sure you have the room. I've had times in the past, Brian, where like I was like, oh, I have room on Sunday. It looks like I can fit in a winger, and then I like add like a right wing. Then it turns out, oh no, right wing was the only position I couldn't fit, and it feels so dumb. So you have to really make sure before you stream someone that you could actually fit them. So yeah, thanks for throwing that out there. Let's take a break. And then when we come back, we'll keep diving down these teams with decent schedules going into our fantasy playoffs. So we'll be back in just a sec.
We'll be back in just a sec.
Sorry, I flubbed it the first time, so I just edited. I guess it'll just be only one ad break for the first half because it's already been a half hour. So my mistake, but whatever. Who cares? No, we don't fill those ads anyway.
Yeah, it's fine. Well,
Okay.
It depends on where people live.
Yeah. Welcome back to Keeping Karlsson. Brian, we are going down every single team in the league, looking at their playoff schedules for the fantasy playoffs, I should say. I was trying to explain to my father-in-law who's in town this weekend what is a fantasy playoffs versus the real playoffs. I don't know how successful I was, but he was like, so you play in the playoffs? Like, okay, just let me but anyways, we don't have time for me to try to recreate this here. But okay, Brian, let's go to the next team here. After Colorado, another team that plays 10 times over the next 3 weeks is the LA Kings. And LA is like doing pretty well. Like they got crushed yesterday by Dallas. Aside from that, this is a team that, if you recall, they were on like a bad losing streak at one point. Cam Talbot couldn't win a game. Riddick wasn't doing too much better. And I remember there was like this funny thing where like it was like an anonymous player on the team was like, you know, all the teams that are the people that are not believing in us. I think we're a lot better than people think. And then like all the replies were like, okay, Drew. All right, Dowdy. We know it's you. And like so, but anyways, Dowdy was right. Assuming it was him. They've been great. It looks like they're going to have a playoff spot. They just have to play better than they did yesterday against Dallas. I guess the big news out of LA that I can see is that obviously Adrian Kempe is back. Aside from that, nothing's really changed. Like Kempe's back and he's doing great. And anyone who drafted him is really enjoying his super productive season. He's pacing for 73 points now after his 2-assist game versus Chicago. Nothing against Dallas yesterday, but he did take 4 shots and had 4 hits. Third of the last 4 games for Kempe getting 4 hits. And normally that's not something you depend on him for. So even helping you there. But yeah, I can't really think of any advice to give in terms of streaming. I feel like you either have the Kings. Like, I mean, I always like Dano. If you could fit Dano in, he's always like solid and generally available. That's all I got.
That's about it. I mean, I doubt anyone's gotten impatient enough with Byfield to drop him. But if he happens to have been made available, like he has been kind of cold, just 3 points in his last 8 games, but he's still shooting. He's actually hitting a bunch too. Still basically top line, top power play deployment. So he might be someone to just check the wire for to make sure he's not available to you. And if he is, I'd get him.
Okay, so next up, let's go to Seattle. Okay, they again 10 games over the next 3 weeks. It's going to be like that for a while, but the next week is really good. Monday and then Thursday, Friday, Sunday. I guess the Sunday it depends, but at least you're getting the Monday, and then you can reassess after that. But if you can fit 2 or 3 games, then you might want to go for a Seattle player. This team is so it just cycles. Like the players who are super hot, just wait like a couple weeks and they'll be cold, and some new person who was cold will be hot. It's been like that all season long, it feels like. I remember we were talking about Jordan Eberle recently, being like, jump on Eberle. He's playing with McCann. McCann is the one like really good, solid guy, but like Eberle now is pointless in 4. So I don't know, but maybe it's the kind of thing like you said, Brian, with Byfield, where now maybe Eberle's been dropped, and now's a good time to jump on him because in general he's been having a decent enough season, and he was hot just like a couple of weeks ago. No reason, like I don't think he's changed. I feel like if you only make your strategic decisions based on what the person's done in the last week, you're always going to be behind the 8 ball, not actually being predictive of what will happen. So I would grab Eberle, but I guess the guy now that's super hot is Oliver Bjorkstrand. So, and he's someone who did go cold for a while, but Bjorkstrand is on a nice little run. He's got, 3 points in 3 straight games. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points in his last 9 games. Maybe 7 points in the last 9 games. Yeah, so it's a good run for Oliver Bjorkstrand. He doesn't get like the most amazing deployment. He hasn't even been getting top power play in most games, but I don't know. He's hot now. You can ride it. See how long it lasts.
7 points in 9 games, 5 goals on 22 shots for Bjorkstrand. And really everyone else has gone cold except Elon. There's one sort of deep crack in that I think you might also want to consider. Andre Burakovsky, since coming back from injury, he's still playing like as close to bottom 6 minutes as you can get in Seattle, right? Because they rotate things so evenly, but decidedly bottom 6. He's been under 13 minutes for the last few games, but Burakovsky has 3 goals in his last 5 games, and he's taken almost 3 shots per game over those 5 games. 2 of those goals have come on the power play. One in a game where he saw a majority of his team's power play time, one where he saw the minority of his team's power play time. So I still wouldn't expect him to get a ton of power play scoring opportunities. But if Eberle's gone, if Bjorkstrand's gone, if McCann is gone, if Beniers is gone, then I think the guy I will next roll the dice on is Andre Burakovsky.
Yeah, I mean, but it could totally be anybody.
And
but I agree.
He could end up leading the field, like also that I just named. That's like you said, that's just how Seattle does.
Yeah, in net, maybe the clock has struck midnight on Philip Grubauer, who was looking like a good goalie for a couple weeks. His last couple of games haven't been as good, letting 5 goals against Vegas, and then yesterday he let in 3 goals on 29 shots versus Nashville. Not terrible, but took the L. Meanwhile, Joey Decord, who's been waiting patiently, he's been solid whenever he comes in. His last couple of games, they've been losses, but he's only letting 2 goals. So unfair to him to have to take these L's. We'll see now Monday. I imagine Decord gets Monday. And then after that, who knows? So if you need a goalie, maybe grab Decord for the game against Buffalo. Obviously, once it's confirmed. Then Thursday, Friday, it's back-to-back, so they'll each play. And then maybe Sunday against Montreal, Decord goes again. I don't know. Because, yeah, imagine if they go... Anyway, who knows? It theoretically could be a 3-game week, or it could just be 2-2. I know Decord was dropped in a lot of leagues, so I think for a Monday stream that potentially then you hold for 2 games between Monday and Friday, that's not so bad. And I guess you could say the same thing about Grubauer, but I actually just don't really have much faith in Grubauer. Like, when he's hot, I guess he's good to grab, but I don't know. In my experience, once he has a couple bad games, usually that continues into many, many more bad games.
Yeah, Grubauer is not someone that you need to hold when the chips are down. He did have a really, really great run, though. Like, let's at least give it up. Like, this is one of his better runs that we've seen in a Kraken jersey outside of the playoffs. Also, 9 games, he won 5 of them. In 7, 5-1-1 record, so only 7 decisions in those 9 games, but a 928 save percentage. And that's actually counting a game that I didn't mean to count. 940 save percentage and a 5-1 record in the 8 games that were part of Grubauer's run. So good for him, but it does the clock has struck midnight, it appears, and if you're looking for Seattle starts, I'd rather go with Joey Decord versus Philip Grubauer.
All right. So next up here, I've got the Ducks, who don't have any off day games next week if we're counting Sunday as a busy day. Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. But then they have some off day games. I guess we're looking at in your finals. If you make it there, you got a Friday, Sunday there where both days are light. So I don't know. Now we're getting into we're kind of done with the teams that have really good schedules. So now I'm just going with all the rest of the 10 games over the next 3 weeks teams. Anaheim, this is just not great right now for them. It's hard to be interested in any of these guys. I see that Leo Carlsson is expected to return tonight after missing 8 games with a concussion in this game against Chicago. A game against Chicago, maybe Anaheim could do something. So if you listen to this live, maybe you can go and stream in a duck. McTavish is hurt again. Gudas is out now. He was one good reliable guy because at least he gives you the peripherals. Troy Terry, Brian, pointless in 6. I feel like deja vu from back in November or something. Is Troy Terry a snoozer? Is it time to potentially let this guy go if you're not getting him in, if he's at the bottom of your roster for next week anyways and he's not doing anything?
Depends on who else is out there, right? Like I mentioned, I had Liljegren. I don't think I would drop Terry to take a chance on Liljegren or maybe even Wool. But I mean, yeah, it's time to at least consider the fact that Troy Terry holding him might cost you your playoffs or your fantasy season at this point. It's been a really dismal stretch for Terry and all of the Ducks. They have 8 goals in their last 7 games. They've been shut out twice in a row against back-to-back nights against Minnesota and Winnipeg. It's been 17 days since the Ducks scored more than 2 goals in a game. And before that, they were actually flying. They had in their previous run had 29 goals in 8 games, almost 4 goals per game. So they just they're on this back and forth roller coaster. It's happened a few times this year, and Troy Terry has been the embodiment of it. When goals start coming, he'll be a part of it. But this team looks, pretty sad at the moment. And it's not a team that I'm going to be banking on suddenly finding a way to turn things around. Coming up, they have St. Louis and Minnesota, both which could be, they could go either way, but they're decent enough teams. Then Chicago, but then Tampa, Seattle, Edmonton, Vancouver. This is not an easy schedule for Anaheim coming up. So I'm not sure how much better it can. It's going to get a little bit better, but I'm not sure how much better.
Yeah, and it's too bad because there's some guys who could be good. And I would be frustrated to drop an Alex Killorn because then I'm confident he'll score 2 goals in the next game.
For sure, he's that guy.
Whenever I drop him, that's what he does. But it's hard to hold.
I'll shout out just Frank Vitrano, who has
he's great.
He at least has 17 shots over his last 4 games, which is his best run of shooting since probably, at least January. So if you're going to get a Duck, the fact that he's taking all those shots, I think there's a pretty decent chance he's going to point on whatever goals I scored. And if he doesn't, he's at least going to be, I think, the only one giving you enough peripherals to justify still, for sure, holding him. But Terry, I'll still just say one more time, definitely still has upside. It's just a sad picture right now. But maybe Leo Carlsson coming back helps a whole lot. We'll see.
Maybe. I'm not going to hold my breath. Might be a good game today against Chicago. Okay, so let's go to the Carolina Hurricanes next. They have an okay schedule next week, 4 games. Again, kind of depends if Sunday counts as busy for you. Tuesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Sunday. Okay, so then it's not. It's a crap schedule because they only have 1 off-day game. But yeah, Carolina obviously have changed a lot up since the trade deadline. Obviously, they acquired Gensel, and they also got Kuznetsov. Bunting was out of the picture to make room. So Gensel, first of all, scored in the shootout yesterday for the win over the Leafs. Nice comeback win for Carolina. Gensel's been good. He had 2 assists in that game. He had an assist in the previous game versus Florida. So now 3 points in 3 games on his new team. No goals yet, but he has 9 shots. So I'm sure a goal will come soon. Not too much you can do about a Gensel since probably he's available. Not available anywhere. The interesting player is Evgeny Kuznetsov, who was probably available all over, especially when Washington waived him. But all of a sudden, Kuznetsov has come to his new team, and it seems like he's found new life. He's been centering a line with Gensel and Natchez, though I know things were being shaken up a bit yesterday in that crazy game against the Leafs. So obviously, you'll want to check out GameDayTweets.com next time we have some Carolina lines before their game on Tuesday. But Kuznetsov now had an assist in his last game. He had a goal in the game before that. He's been taking some shots. He's been getting some power play time. I don't know if this is like Kuznetsov of old, but if you need a center, if you could fit in, 3 of these games next week, I think he's definitely someone to consider. But I actually wanted to ask you to compare him to, you mentioned like Casey Middlestad, also on a new team who seems to be fitting in pretty well in Colorado. I see both of them as being pretty similar to me in fantasy for the short term. Both second line centers. Maybe we'll get power play, like top power play sometimes, but generally PP2. I see them kind of the same.
Yeah, and have exposure to great players. The thing with Kuznetsov is that he's shooting. Like he has 10 shots in his last 3 games, so I'll give the edge to Kuznetsov there. Also, like he has the history of being a 25-30 goal scorer, and Middlestat doesn't. So we know that generally Kuznetsov is more assist heavy, but I'm open to the possibility that maybe he's going to shoot more. Like if you just look at basically his shot rate over the last 3 games, and it doesn't mean it's going to last. In his first couple games in Carolina, he barely shot, but he's just fitting in. So I'm going to chop those. See that Kuznetsov's taken over 3 shots per game in the last 3. And then I'm going to go through his career to see if there's any time he did that in Washington for like any significant amount of time. No, there wasn't. So I'm curious, and Kuznetsov has always been like a pretty decent converter, like usually around 11, 12%, sometimes as high as 15 in his luckier seasons. So we'll see what's to come, but I'm hopeful that he can add some goals, that those shots keep coming, and those provide goals along with assists. The part that that is unfortunate is Martin Necas playing with Gensel and Kuznetsov. He's shooting like nobody's business, but he's gone cold since they've arrived. But I don't expect that to last either. So if anyone I doubt anyone's gotten impatient enough with Necas to drop him. But if you're wondering, like, should I hold on? Yeah, he's not getting boxed out by Kuznetsov and Gensel being around. I think it will be good for him in the big picture.
Yeah, so big week next week, 4 games, and we'll see how that line does. And things will maybe change. Teravainen has been injured, but he could come back at any time, and then obviously things will get shaken up again. I want to go to Columbus now, Brian. Next week they go Tuesday and then Friday, Saturday. But I don't know if you can wait till Friday to grab Alex Nylander at this point. This guy, in my notes here, I have Alex Nylander and then an expletive. Because it's like ridiculous. Like this is a guy I had available to me in my dynasty league where no one's ever available, and I was like, even when he got traded to Columbus, I was like, whatever. And then I saw he was gonna play like on a good line, and I was like, that's not gonna last. I'm sure he'll get sent to the minors soon. Now all of a sudden, Alex Nylander is like line 1, power play 1 with Jenner and Gaudreau. He's taking you're talking like you're impressed by Kuznetsov and his like 3 or 4 shots a game. Nylander's got like 4 or 5 shots per game in his last handful of games. He just had 2 goals and 1 assist versus San Jose. He's up to now. I can't even count all these numbers. It's too much, but I'm counting like 5, 6, 7, 8 goals in his last 9 games and I'm throwing 3 assists. Gee, okay, so like, here, a question that I asked you a few weeks ago was like, who's the Columbus player to go after, the forward to go after outside of Gaudreau and Jenner? And you had that like good out of the box take of Roslovic, and that turned out to be right until he got traded to New York. Now is it like a much easier answer, and it's like Alex Nylander, no question, almost like pause the pod to go get this guy if he's out there?
Yeah, the only reason not to is because you probably don't get him in your lineup till Friday. But I agree with you, Elon. That might be too late. It is for me in my cupful division. I was actually going to add him Monday, but he just got snapped up like an hour ago. So I think that's it. I think it's a really easy answer, and it's crazy. Trivia question: do you know who? The biggest trade of the deadline actually happened on February 22nd when 2 non-playoff teams. This is like the biggest fantasy trade of the deadline, probably, though. Do you know who, do you remember who Nylander was traded for?
Yeah. A former favorite of yours, Bemstrom.
Yeah. Yeah. And Nylander was like someone also we thought maybe once upon a time in Buffalo, and he never really got a long look. And then he went to Chicago, never really got a long look, in Pittsburgh. He fell out of favor really quick, and he's never played really any substantial time for any NHL team until now with Columbus. It's pretty wild. He's playing 16 and a half minutes a night, which is 3 or 4 minutes more than he's ever really played, and he is cashing in. Like you mentioned, the shots just keep coming. He's averaging almost 4 a game since joining the Blue Jackets, and he's scored on 8 of them, which is a 21% shooting percentage, but is not like obscene. and he's got a couple on the power play. So I would absolutely, if you can handle like turning down a couple games played, then and you're just looking to the future, then yeah, I'd go Nylander. And I almost like Elon. I guess for me, like my question back to you is: would you prefer Nylander or Boone Jenner? Like, do you love Nylander? Has he rocketed above the field like where we had
No.
Roslovic? No.
I don't think so. That seems a bit much.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Jenner's been great. Jenner's also scoring a ton of goals. I'm just not bringing it up because it's like seems like too obvious.
Well, Jenner was quiet for a little bit, but now he's back to scoring. He's got a couple.
obviously.
He's got 3
He's
points in
playing
his
with
last 2
Nylander.
games. Yeah. Yeah. No, they're doing. It's great. This Jenner, Gaudreau, Nylander doing great. Everybody else, it's Columbus.
Yeah. I actually am in a super tight matchup in my Dynasty League here. I might, Brian, not make it to the finals. I'm in the semifinals, and unless I have a really great day today, I might get bumped. And I could make an ad to try to get some hits. I'm seeing a guy named Karlsson No who played his 3rd game for Columbus yesterday of the season, and he had 6 hits. I don't know, I'm thinking about it. Because I only have 9 more games I could even play for the whole matchup, so I'd have to bench someone. But I have Voronkov, who I know I've drooled about forever, but Voronkov hasn't been doing much lately, and I specifically need hits. So I'm thinking of benching Voronkov and adding Carson Meyer. But I don't know. This is that dynasty content I was promising at the start of the show.
There it is. I mean, if you parting with Voronkov, that means that you must be in dire straits to be at that portion.
Not
of
dropping
the season.
him. Not dropping him. Just
Okay.
benching him today. But, yeah. I'll go to the next team.
I'd actually feel remiss if we went through Columbus without talking about Daniil Tarasov.
Yes.
He's been crazy. And like this goes back to like mid-February, like after the All-Star break. In his last 8 appearances, he's got a .942 save percentage. And like in his other 11 appearances that came before this, he'd only been above 900 in 3 of them. So he's .942 over his last 8 is amazing. Merzlikins also has been really good, except for the hiccup against Montreal earlier this week. So, but then he recovered against Ottawa with a 35 of 37 for a shootout loss. So we haven't been able to look to Columbus for goaltending help this season. I'm wondering if maybe we could. It seems strange that like both these guys have suddenly found their games, but I think if you have written off Columbus goalies, it might be time to at least pop them back on your watch list.
Yeah, especially like Tuesday, Columbus plays Detroit, who's been having some trouble. Assuming Larkin isn't back, then maybe you grab a Columbus goalie. Probably, I'd imagine it'll be Tarasov. He got the win in the last game, but who knows? But yeah, you definitely, it's not a guarantee that Tarasov will play on Tuesday, but whoever plays Tuesday will give you 2 games in the week because Columbus plays Tuesday and then again on Friday, Saturday. So they'll obviously swap. Though probably you're not going to be as excited to have the Columbus goalie against Colorado specifically on Friday. That's a scary start to me. Okay, let's go down the list, Brian, now to the New Jersey Devils here, who next week they're going to go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Just your typical, you got your big number of games, but mostly on busy days. Though if you need a goalie, maybe I don't know, Brian. But so as I talked about with Steve last week, like they've overhauled the whole thing here. Now they've got Jake Allen and they have Kaapo Kakkonen and they still have Dawes. And actually, Kakkonen played yesterday and got pulled, and Dawes came in and did pretty well. Though Jake Allen had his first game on his new team and he looked good. Right, he got himself a win over Dallas, which is obviously a very tough opponent. Only 2 goals against on 37 shots. So I'm sure Jake Allen is excited to be on it's not like not as good a team as obviously we thought they would be, but I guess better than Montreal. And we'll see if he can build on that for the rest of the year. It's hard to predict with a team that has 3 goalies, but I think I'd be kind of interested in trying out Jake Allen. Like they play Pittsburgh on Tuesday. Pittsburgh's been terrible. If Allen gets that game, I'll take Jake Allen against Pittsburgh, and then they go Winnipeg and then Ottawa Islanders over the weekend. If Allen plays Tuesday, he probably gives you at least another game on the week. Now, Kakkonen seems like he stinks, but Jake Allen I'm kind of interested in now on a new team.
Yeah, Kakkonen has never been good. Jake Allen has kind of been good for a little while. And Shams is reporting in the chat. I'm not seeing it on Game Day tweets yet, but that Allen is starting today. So we'll see how that goes. Elon, I'm in a league where goalies get 2 points for a win, and that's a big deal. Like having a goalie on a winning team is important. I also have like 7 moves left for the season, and I have Tristan Jarry, Joseph Woll, and Stuart Skinner. So Skinner's fine. But I've been and Woll, I think, okay, here's my theory on Woll. I know we're not on Toronto. I think he's gonna there's two back-to-backs for Toronto this week. I think he's going to come out of those back-to-backs being the superior goalie to Samsonov, and then he's going to get the majority of the starts the rest of the way. And so that leaves Tristan. So I want Jake Allen, is basically what I'm trying to say. And I think I'm ready to make room for him and take that chance because I agree. Kalkinen doesn't seem like a real contender. Dawes is in the picture, but like I don't know why they'd want to invest a whole lot in him at this point of the season. So like I'm trying to decide whether to add Jake Allen for Tristan Jarry, who like can't win.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's been so bad.
I don't know if I agree with your Toronto take, by the way. Like, Samsonov has been really good lately. I guess this is just a gut feeling. Like, who knows with goalies? But at this point, I wouldn't be giving up on Samsonov, especially because Woll has been kind of weak. But obviously, you know, like you said, two back-to-backs. Toronto situation can change. Pittsburgh is dire. I do agree that, especially if you have, like, negative... Oh, I guess you said this league only cares about wins.
I just need wins. Pittsburgh
Yeah.
doesn't seem like a winny team the rest of the way.
They don't feel very winny to me either. So I think I
More
would
like
go, but yeah, but there's their episode title. I don't know if I'd be curious what your other options are because I still would be a little nervous about New Jersey having 3 goalies, which limits the potential. I don't think like Dawes is not sent to the minors yet, right? So I don't see why they wouldn't still give him some games also. So maybe your assessment isn't right that Allen will get a ton of volume, but
They've got to run with one though.
Why?
Like whoever's going to win for them.
now they're out of the playoffs. They're just gonna kind of see how everyone does. I think at this point.
You think
Jersey's
that's
done.
it? I guess they are far enough. They, and actually, like one tip that I heard like years ago now, which helps me sort of figure out if teams are really in the playoff race, is instead of counting points. I mean, like I can see there's some separation between the Devils and the Isles, Caps, Red Wings, Lightning, but you can also count the number of teams that they have to jump, right? Because like no matter how many points back you are, of course that matters, but the more teams in front of you, like the more you're counting on bad things happening to everyone else. So you're right, Elon. Maybe I don't know. I feel
Who
like
else is
I
out
guess
there?
it's
Jake
not.
Allen only had one good game. Also, like I brought him up. I was like, okay, someone to keep an eye on. I don't think it's like let's see how he does today.
I have 2 guys who you're probably going to like more who are out there.
Let's hear him.
I've got Marc-Andre Fleury.
I mean, he's been incredible.
He's like
and he's been
the
playing 4
Minnesota
games in a row.
starter. Yeah. But they have a back-to-back coming up, and so like I kind of want volume. And Charlie Lindgren.
No, go Lindgren.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
he's
just
going to
been
play 3 games next week.
He's so unreliable.
Oh, but Jake Allen. it's kind of like
Well, if Jake Allen plays well, then he'll play well again and again. That's
Charlie Lindgren won't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion. Is
No, you're right.
Lindgren.
You're right.
There's no
It's
right
crazy.
or wrong with
You know what's
goalies, but
crazy?
that's my opinion.
You know what I've had a really hard time wrapping my head around is these standings. Like, we're talking about Philly, like being not even in like top 3 in their division. And then you have like Washington, like nipping at their heels and in the wild card race. And it's just like who's in and who's out is like kind of bonkers. Like the Isles are in there with the Caps, which is about where we expected them. But teams like Buffalo, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, Ottawa, like nowhere in the picture. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a weird season over there in the East. And yeah, it seems like it's an easier... I mean, I don't want to sell short like a team like Philly or whatever, Detroit. But like the West... I was looking at them, and it's like there's going to be some tough matchups. Like Nashville has won, like 12 of their last 14 games. They're in a wild card spot right now, and then Vegas is currently in the other wild card spot. Like imagine you win your division. You're supposed to get kind of an easier first round matchup, and you're going to go against one of these. And Vegas, by the way, is like if they just make the playoffs. Like all of a sudden they're going to have Tomas Hertl, Mark Stone will have a miraculous recovery. Like all of a sudden it'll be a completely different team. And so that would be also really bad luck for a team to face them. And yeah, meanwhile in the East, it's kind of like, yeah, I think that the top teams are going to be pretty happy to go against a Philly or a Detroit or like you said, Islanders or Washington in that first round. It's interesting, but good luck with your decision. Matt in the chat here says Lindgren would be his pick. So you could add that data point. All right. So next team. Let's go. Okay. All right. Brian, I think now here's a good time to. All right. Brian, I think now is a good time for us to take a little break. We'll catch our breath. We got a lot more teams to get through, so we need to make sure we're in tip-top shape. Get a drink of water. I don't know what else. Oh man, I'm looking outside right now. By the way, it is snowing like crazy. I have a friend who invited me and like to go to this like spring solstice like thing this afternoon, like where his mom is gonna be. I don't know. It's like a very like spiritual kind of thing, I think, and she's gonna like talk about astrology and like it sounds kind of like out there. But I think it's kind of funny that this thing is happening this afternoon, and I'm looking. It's like a blizzard outside, and they're going to be like having a spring celebration. So I wonder if that's even still on. But anyhow, yeah.
I'd love to hear like how like the leading of this ceremony changes, like what they had, like what they'll say about the change in weather, like how it will be framed, like as like a gift, a bounty. That's how I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I said solstice. Okay. So the official message I got here was like my mother's going to lead a spring equinox ceremony, and she talks about mythology, astrology, spirituality, and leads some meditation. It's a peaceful and uplifting time. Like I don't know how peaceful and uplifting it can be when you've got a blizzard going on.
I think that I would actually feel very uplifted by a blizzard right now. Right? Also, I'm curious if you like what the overlap is between people who like if you would be the only fantasy hockey manager in attendance.
Well, I know that one of the friends in this dad like WhatsApp chat that we're in plays fantasy, and he said he listened to an episode of the podcast. Hey, Mike, if you're listening, and Mike knows what I'm talking about right now. He's probably laughing. But anyway, Brian, what
sounds fun. I would go to this. I wish I was there in the blizzard to join the equinox celebration. It sounds lovely.
I don't know if I'm gonna go, but we'll see.
I can already tell whether or not you're gonna go.
I mean, I just do what my partner wants to do at the end of the day. But okay, pal, let's take a break. We'll be back for part 2. If you're a listener, which is most everyone I'm talking to except for Brian, make sure you're subscribed to Keeping Karlsson so that show will already be in your feed. We'd really appreciate it.
I'm
also
subscribed
too.
Review.
We'd appreciate that. You're subscribed. Are you going to listen?
Well, you said everybody except for Brian.
Well, I was saying the listeners, who's everyone except for Brian.
Oh.
But yeah, I do appreciate that you're subscribed too. Hey, every download counts, right?
I appreciate that I'm subscribed.
You go to Manscaped, and they're like, oh, we want you to have at least this many listeners. Oh, we're one short. I guess we won't be able to talk about our crops. I don't know. Those are weird ads. Those are weird ads at different...
Yeah. I wish we could bleep that sponsor reference. You just gave it to them for free.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knows, like, all the sponsors that are, like, on every single podcast. It's all, like... We just got a list of, like, potential sponsors, and it was all, like, such odd products. We'll see. We'll see if we end up doing we might be doing ad reads again at some point, and we'll do our best. But okay, let's take a break. We'll be back. We'll talk about the rest of these hockey teams. See you later. Okay.
What did I do last time? Was it a yes?
Yeah, but you could just do your own thing. Just do what feels right. You could just be like, hi. Yeah, I think you didn't even do a yes. I think you were like, all right, welcome.
Did everybody. I do an all right? I did an all right. Okay, I'll do an all right. All right. Welcome back, everybody. And if you never left, even better. We're so happy to have you for the second half of our weekly mega show. My name is Brian Cum. I co-host this show called Keeping Karlsson with my friend and co-host Elon Dabrowski. And we are looking at all the teams in order in the NHL in order of the number of games they have remaining. We're sort of in like that mushy middle right now, that medial miasma, where there's a bunch of teams who don't have such an impressive schedule, but of course we're thorough, we're comprehensive, we're going to try and talk about them all, and we've already covered Anaheim, so we're not going to forget them again, like we have like twice already this season. They've been playing forgettably, but not all of the teams that are still to come have been playing forgettably, and I can't wait to talk about them and their fantasy relevant players who are going to help you in your fantasy hockey playoffs. Elon, are you ready?
What an intro. I'm so pumped up and ready to go. I want to start on the Rangers for this part 2. Just a boring little old Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday next week. Very different than their 5-game week that they're just wrapping up here, in which I mentioned my Dynasty League where I need hits. I had Rempe, who hits a lot, and then he got suspended for 4 of the games. And in that first game, he didn't get too many hits because he got kicked out of the game early on.
That's the risk you run by having him in your lineup.
Yeah, so he'll be back next week if you need hits and you want to take a risk. The Rangers, like, really, it's just like the top players are hot right now. Like Kreider is doing impressive like stuff. Like Kreider every once in a while just goes like white hot, and he's definitely on that run now. He's on his line with Zibanejad, who's also been decent, and Roslovic. Somehow Roslovic is playing with one of the hottest players in the league in Kreider, but he's not even doing that much. He only had 2 points so far in the last 4 games. So he's really, it seemed like a decent landing spot for him. Like he was obviously doing so well in Columbus. He's moved to the Rangers, and it looks like Steve Laidlaw was right. I was like, oh, I'd be interested in Roslovic at least for the 5-game week. And he was like, whatever. We'll see how he does today. So far, it's been a very boring new location. I think Jack Roslovic is, especially after today, is going to be back on all the waiver wires going into next week with a bad schedule.
Yeah, there's no, as much as I would love, I feel like Elon, this is like a bit of a Matthew Perreault feel to me for like the Roslovic. Like it just felt kind of out there, plucked, but it's over now. Whatever it is, it's over now. Now that Roslovic's in New York, so don't expect the good times to keep rolling. Drop him at Alex Nylander. Call it a day.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I'll just mention quickly, Adam Fox is having a really great season. We never talk about it on the show. I feel like there's not much to say, but he just had himself a couple points in that game against Pittsburgh. He actually was pointless against the Islanders, but I'm looking at his overall season stats, and Adam Fox is having a career year right now. Or he's pacing for 78. We'll see how he does in today's game. Oh, today's game just started. That's why he has 0 points against the Islanders. So maybe he still will get a point. So yeah, Adam Fox, near point per game defenseman. I guess they're a little less rare than they used to be, but still, shout out to a really viable guy that if you reached for in your draft, you were happy you did. He gave you exactly what you were hoping for.
Yeah, you probably didn't have to reach too high to get Adam Fox, but he has just been quietly producing, which is lovely and what you hope for a defenseman. Also, Elon, I think like one little piece we need to wrap up here, and maybe you have with Steve or on short, and I missed it, but Shesterkin, like at some point not that long ago, it was probably like mid-February. We were like, is Jonathan Quick going to start seeing volume? And because he started 3 in a row.
That was like after the All-Star break. Like,
yeah.
If we said it like as a headline just to quickly say, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, like I know I was in that limited moves league I was talking about. Someone added him in that stretch. He's played 4 times since then. He's given up 4 goals in 3 of those 4 starts. And he's won 3 of the 4 starts too, so good for him. But Shesterkin is since actually, you know what? Since those 3 games off, like that's been like the turning point of the season for Shesterkin. And like this is coming off a game, by the way, where he gave up 5 goals to Tampa on what was it, Thursday? But overall, since Quick started 3 in a row, Shesterkin has won 9 of 11 and has a .951 save percentage. That's just 18 goals against in 11 games. So the Shesterkin of old is back, and hopefully just in time for your fantasy hockey playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. Shesterkin is a guy where if you reach for him, you were maybe disappointed for a lot of the year, but hopefully he'll come through for you when it counts. Next up, Pittsburgh. We already talked about how they can't win games. They don't feel very winny, I think is what you said. Yeah, everyone has been so bad. I have Crosby and Malkin in this dynasty league. Like that, they've been money for me. Like now,
it's
bad.
Year,
not as much. Yeah,
it's bad, and they're not even like leaning on anyone. Like they're not like splitting units, but Malkin is still like on another unit from Crosby. And like the first unit in Pittsburgh is Crosby, Eller, Rust, and Bunting in their last game. What is
and
that?
Eller scored a power play goal, and it was like from like Rust and Bunting. Like I didn't even get a Crosby power play assist. I was so annoyed. Also, by the way, Erik Karlsson only 2 assists in his last 10 games, and he's had less than 50% of the power play time in his last 3 games. The way that Pittsburgh is, so the power play is like
with the Malkin unit.
Yeah, just the whole thing is. This team stinks.
Anyways, yeah. Oh, sorry. We just.
I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
Last week, Steve said you could drop Malkin, and I was like, whoa. But also, like, I get it. So, Brian, I want to ask you, do you agree with Steve about Malkin? And then also, do we also say it about Erik Karlsson at this point? Like, it's not a great schedule next week, just Tuesday, then Friday, Sunday. And Pittsburgh stinks, and none of these people are getting any points. Maybe Crosby's maybe Rust are the only people you hold.
I mean, so I have Rust available in that league I've mentioned a few times. And I was going to go for the ad, but I'm still not sure. Like if he's on a sort of split-ish power play, Like I want Brian Rust for top line, top power play, and if he's not there, I don't really want him. Now this is going to sound a little hypocritical because Malkin has worse deployment than Rust, and I would hold on to Malkin, just because like he could explode, right? Like it's an upside play. If you're like in like the throes of desperation and you need to find the bottom guy on your roster, and it's Malkin, then like yes, in that case, I will get with Steve and I will say you can go ahead and drop him, if you need to. Like this is if you need to, and there's no like fly by night guy who's just like doing better than him for the last 3 games that you want to keep. If he's like for sure, that's it. Like so you can tell I'm like I'm trying to honor the take, but at the same time I'm not like a huge fan of dropping Malkin. Like Pittsburgh has also like they've had their own scoring struggles too. They've scored 10 goals in their last 2, but before that they had 2 goals in 4. Like they just haven't been scoring. Their power play has gone like really cold. I think goals are coming, and I expect Malkin and Karlsson to be in on it, at least enough of them to be rosterable. And I'm more confident the goals will be coming in Pittsburgh than in Anaheim.
Oh, well, hey, if you think the goals are coming, then maybe you should hold on to Jari in that league. If they start scoring goals, maybe they're a bit more winny.
Maybe, but I don't know how many starts Jari's going to keep get. Like, I don't know. Okay. Is he still the starter even?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, he has been.
Yeah.
But at what point are they like, yeah, season's over. Let's see what Nedeljkovic is going to do. Let's start thinking about next year.
They know what Nedeljkovic will do. It'll be like similar to Jari, but a little worse. Matt, by the way, in the chat is saying to keep your penguins and keep your ducks. So there you go. Trev,
keep your birds.
When Trev gives us our accountability check in a little while, you can let us know if Matt was right all along and all the penguins and ducks are about to go off. But okay, so next let's go to the St. Louis Blues here, who have themselves just a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday next week, and then they'll have a 4-game week only in your fantasy finals if you make it that far. So definitely you're not going to be going out of your way to grab a bunch of St. Louis players. If anything, you're considering dropping St. Louis players, and it's been a discussion topic on short shifts, and I want to know what your thought on it is. Is it time to consider Pavel Buchnevich a snoozer? Like, he's just been so cold for so long now. It's kind of like a Malkin situation, except even, well, I guess Buchnevich at least is getting somewhat good deployment. But actually, I look at yesterday's game against Minnesota. Buchnevich was on a line with Neighbors and Zach Bolduc, and it was Thomas Kyrou and Braden Shen on the top line. Buchnevich still on the top power play. But yeah, we're looking at a cold streak now of only 1 point in his last 8 games. That was just an assist. These last couple of games, just a shot each for Pavel Buchnevich. So is this going to be similar with Malkin? Like, you just like him for the upside play because of what he's done in the past? Or are you seeing anything in the underlying numbers that will be like, no, it's going to happen soon? Or is it like, I don't know. Because by the way, I should mention, like, Thomas and Kyrou have also been cold lately for what it's worth. Like, they both had some points yesterday versus Minnesota. But Buchnevich is the especially noteworthy cold streak on the team.
Yeah, and I will just say, like, it was preceded, like, honestly, compared to Malkin, if I had to drop one of them, I'd drop Malkin, because Buchnevich, before this cold snap, was doing better than Malkin has done since, like, December. So Buchnevich's production has been, like, close enough, or it's not so far in the rearview mirror that I need to give up. The strange thing with Buchnevich is that he has just 2 assists in his last 17 games. And that seems like out of character. And I'm gonna guess, without being able to dig so deep into it at this moment, that there's an on-ice shooting percentage thing going on there, and points participation. So I'm gonna think that Buchnevich is going to be okay. The goals, the shots are like about what we would expect, and the assists are not. And I think they're going to come back. And that's about where I stand on Buchnevich. St. Louis has their hot and cold goal scoring runs too, but on the whole, like, I think they'll be balanced, and Buchnevich will be okay.
All right. Okay. So I guess I don't know. Yeah, it's such a tough time of the season. I feel like if I saw Buchnevich dropped in one of my leagues, I would be so tempted to add him, but then I'd probably look at how I can't fit him into any games and be like, I'll just let someone else do it and then maybe feel bad if he scores. But it could go either way. He's obviously a really good player. It's hard to imagine, unless it turns out he's been playing injured or something. It's hard to imagine that he's like lost his skill. But yeah, I especially don't like his deployment right now. But maybe St. Louis will change it, though they did have a win yesterday against Minnesota. We'll see how they do. They're playing again today against Anaheim. You'd imagine that could be a good team. Maybe by the time someone's listening to this, Buchnevich will have just had a hat trick against Anaheim, and everything will kind of change with the narrative around him. That's a good team to try to score some goals against. Let's go to the Tampa Bay Lightning next, who just go Wednesday, Saturday. Wait, no, that's not right. Let's go to Tampa Bay Lightning next, who are another 4-game team next week, but just like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. The big name on Tampa lately is another trade deadline acquisition in Anthony Duclair. Holy cow. Great change of fortunes for him. He goes from the Sharks, who are probably never going to play a playoff game for the rest of my lifetime. I don't know, at least in the next 3-4 years. And now all of a sudden, Duclair goes to Tampa, who I guess isn't guaranteed a playoff spot, but you know they'll sneak in. And plus, he's been playing lately. Like, he's been climbing up the lineup. In the last game against Florida, Duclair was playing with Kucherov and Braden Point. So you can't do much better than that. And Duclair is having some success. He had an assist in that game against Florida. He had a goal versus the Rangers. He had a goal and an assist in his first game with the Lightning versus Philly. So Duclair still hasn't gone a game without a point. He's getting more and more power play time each game. He's climbing up the lineup. I think we're at a point now where Duclair, like, I don't know who else we were saying. Oh, Alex Nylander. I guess that's a fun comparison. I'd go Duclair. I'll take the guy playing with Kucherov and Point.
Yeah, me too. And on the top, like, and on a really competent top power play too. Like, and really, it's a surroundings kind of thing here. But Duclair seems pretty locked in to great deployment. And Elon, like, I was around the trade deadline. Like I said, I didn't get to be on, but I remember I woke up one morning, saw that Duclair had been traded to Tampa, and like typed in our Discord server, I love Duclair to Tampa. Like, that seemed, and I talked about him the week or two earlier and what he was doing in San Jose, right? As he seemed to be getting some great opportunities and capitalizing. Like, he had 5 goals in his last 4 games as a Shark and 3 assists to go with those. And Duclair has just kept rolling as a member of the Lightning. I think it was a very savvy and wise pickup by the Lightning. And I hope that Duclair can continue being super helpful there. And I don't see any reason to disbelieve that he can at least be fantasy relevant. So, Elon, I don't know that I'd say like Alex Nylander is just so hot. And like the shots seem more consistent. So I think, it's close. It's close. Like, I'd put them about on par.
Okay, I'll take Duclair. But I try to get both if you can.
Yeah.
But I like Duclair.
I'll mention, like, one guy who we just need to mention could suffer is Brendan Hagel, who's been pretty quiet, right? Just 3 points in his last 6 games. He has only 2 shots in his last 3 games. He's also, I mean, he's never been a huge hitter, but like, he hasn't thrown a hit in like 8 games either, which is probably neither here nor there. But I'd say that this puts a step between Hagel and his ideal deployment.
Brian Duclair, I'm looking at his like history, his like stats over the years. Don't bring it up. This guy is only 28 years old. He's been on so many teams. He's been on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, now 8. This is his 8th team. Do you think you could name? How many of these teams do you think you could name that Duclair has been on?
Okay. Ottawa.
Okay, you got one.
He's on the Rangers.
Yeah, for just 18 games, but yeah.
I think he spent time in Arizona.
Correct.
There's 9 teams. Okay, San
8.
Jose and Tampa.
Yeah, so that's 5.
Oh.
Wait.
Columbus?
1, 2. Yeah, Columbus.
That's 6. Was he ever in Chicago?
Actually, oh yeah, there he was in Chicago. Yeah, that's 7. In the middle of the 2017-18 season, I guess Chicago got him from Arizona. So yeah, you have 1 team to go, which is an easy one actually.
Oh.
Where he was the last 3 seasons before this one.
Oh my gosh.
Brett, you just come back from vacation. Oh, from the place where he played, actually. If that's
Florida. Okay, all right. Oh,
There you
I
go.
mean, like I'm, you know me, like I like I'm more into the obscure ones than the obvious. That's
Right,
that's
yeah, you
that's
were
what I'm
like,
more concerned with.
you got the Chicago and
Yes,
Rangers, which
so
I didn't
long as I
get.
named Chicago, forget it. That could have been the only team I named. Would have been
Yeah.
fine.
By the way, remember like a couple weeks ago when Stamkos was on a cold streak and you said not to worry about it, and I agreed. And like that was a good
I
call.
do remember.
Stamkos is red hot. He had 2 goals and 2 assists in that big win over Florida. Which, by the way, Florida was like the stronger team. Like they took a ton more shots than Tampa Bay did, but Vasilevsky was in playoff form. So maybe this is a sign of him having a Shestyorkin like turnaround just at the right time for you. That was a huge game for Tampa to get the win there. But anyways, 2 goals, 2 assists for Stamkos, bringing him to 9 points in his last 5 games. So nothing to worry about over there. Let's go to Duclair's old team, the Florida Panthers. And where should we go here? How about, I guess we got to talk about a cold streak, the most noteworthy cold streak here. A guy who I was super excited about just last week, talking with Steve about Tarasenko. He was playing with Barkov. He had gotten a point. Like I don't know, things were looking good, and things changed quickly. Right? It's been a quiet week for Tarasenko. No points in his last 3 games, and I'm seeing in the last game. Tarasenko was playing on a line with Luosterainen and Lundell. Oh, that's I guess there was a blender here in this game against Tampa, right? So who? I guess you'll have to check now and see what the lines are next time that Florida practices. But I guess it's possible that they end up going with the same lines they had at the end of this game, which was Barkov, Reinhard, Verhage, and then Bennett, Rodriguez, and Kachuk. Maybe Tarasenko finds himself in the bottom 6. So I don't know. I guess like Florida's schedule, by the way, is they don't play until Thursday. They go Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So that would be tough for me to hold an ice cold Tarasenko for 4 days when he's not even playing, and then like just to get him on a Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, which all might be busy for you. Might only fit him in one game in the week. So I don't know. I think we're getting close to snoozer territory here. When just a week ago I was like rush out and grab him.
I think that's fair. He's not on like a really meaningful line, and one of the reasons he's been bumped in the lineup is Sam Bennett's back. Right, he played with Rodriguez and Kachuk, and also took a spot on the second power play unit where Tarasenko also resides. Sam Bennett, by the way, he had an assist in his return and 4 shots and 3 hits. The assist came on the power play. He's been like it's been a frustrating season for Bennett, but in the last 5 games he's played, he has 4 points. So he might be somebody who may have already been dropped. So yeah, I would drop Tarasenko, and then I would keep an eye for when you can fit Panthers in your lineup. I would add Bennett before Tarasenko.
I am definitely with you there. I would also take Bennett over Tarasenko if you have the option. Next up, let's go to Montreal. We've still got like 6 teams. Oh, one sec. All right. Brian's going to take a quick break. I guess I can just do my part and then afterwards just tell him. He'll figure it out. All right. We've got like, oh, he didn't mute his mic. Okay, whatever. It'll be fine. Okay. All right, we still have a few more teams that play 10 times over this next 3 weeks. Like I said, there's a bunch of them. Another kind of mess schedule for next week is the Montreal Canadiens, who play Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and those are against Edmonton, Vancouver, and Seattle. All home games. All home games, at least. Yeah, I guess the news out of Montreal is like we just have to keep going back and forth on Slavkovsky. Though I am pretty positive that when he was cold, I was saying that I'm into just like holding him because he still was on the top line. He still was on the top power play. I just kind of felt like, again, like a lot of these people we've talked about, it's not like he lost his skill or anything was necessarily wrong. It's just like, these streaks happen. And I think now Slavkovsky has gone hot again in the exact same spot he's been in for a long time. So I just am kind of into Slavkovsky as someone that if he's available now because he was cold, now's the time to grab him again. 5 points in his last 4 games. Caulfield has been good. Suzuki is fine. Like, I shouldn't say, okay. Brian isn't even here, so I don't have Suzuki's stats. I know Caulfield has been good. Caulfield has been good. Suzuki continues to roll, has points in his last couple games. I guess Suzuki did go pointless for 3 games, but still close to a point per game on the season. So yeah, if you can't get Caulfield or Suzuki, you for some reason want to get in on a Hab. I think that Slavkovsky is just like similarly as interesting to me, honestly, as like an Alex Nylander and a Duclair. So I'll be curious to know. I guess Trev can let us know in a couple weeks if that is a crazy take, but I have him just in the same spot as them. What do you think, Brian? And now Brian isn't here, so when he comes back, I will let him know about the question that I asked him. Sorry. My wife will be very excited when I'm done this podcast. So that's something I've got. Kind of makes it exciting when you're recording a podcast, but you also know you're up against the clock a little bit. So makes it fun here as we all anxiously await Brian's return. I guess we have a game on right now. Let's check the box score here. Islanders and the Rangers. Horvat shorthanded from Nelson, and then Zibanejad. Oh, from Roslovic. Look at that. So Roslovic got himself onto the score sheet. I guess it had to happen at some point if you're playing on the top line, but still not someone I would jump on at this point now going into a bad schedule next week. But yeah, Roslovic, 1 assist, but no shots even. So not even that great. I've got Kyle Palmieri in this league where I need hits. I wonder if he did anything. Let's see. Kyle Palmieri, -1, 1 hit. I guess he's not really known for hitting. He did have a 7-hit game. All right, Brian. The question I asked you was, I just talked about how Slavkovsky is hot again, top line, top power play. And then I said, where does he fit in? I said that I think he's basically in the same level as like a Duclair or a Nylander. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. But I think he's just as good, just as likely to do well. So you could comment on that.
Okay. All right, maybe I'll go. I'll drop a bit of a hot take here and say that I think Slavkovsky is a step above your Nylander and Duclair.
Right,
yeah, just because he's been consistent enough for a while, and like I know this last stretch, like he had just the single point. It was a goal in 8 games and a lot of single shot games, but his deployment stayed the same. His time on ice, his minute, like everything stayed the same. And he's still there, and now he's back up to 4 games in a row for getting a point. So I'll rank Slavkovsky at the top ahead of the tied Nylander and Duclair. Although the more I think about it, the more I would put Duclair ahead of Nylander. So I'm swaying over to your side there, but I think it's reasonable to still kind of have them in the same realm. Like they're not so far apart from one another.
All right. So as you listen to this show, we've dropped a lot of players that might be available to you on their team's top line and top power play. Those are the kind of guys you want to have on your roster going into your fantasy playoffs. Let's look at Nashville next. There's really just nothing ever to talk about with Nashville. It's always the same. You got your top line is good. Roman Josi is freaking incredible. You see Saros, unbelievable. This team is doing so well. And I guess I just then have just a solid depth of no one worth talking about most of the time, aside from all those superstars I just mentioned. But yeah, I think that they're going to be an exciting team come the playoffs. I feel like if they end up playing a team like the Canucks, I think that's going to end up as a really exciting series. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park at all for Vancouver, especially if UC Saros is on the top of his game. But I don't have anything else, Brian. I don't know. Any thoughts on the Preds in general?
No. I mean, I was I see Sissons is playing with Zucker and Beauvillier, and none of them are doing anything. Which is what I'd expect. But I see upside, except not anymore. Those guys are just who they are, right? They're tertiary scorers at this point. Tommy Novak still gently clicking, rolling along, doing nothing of massive consequence, but still doing something. Yeah. I think that's the story in Nashville.
All right, let's go to the Islanders here. Also 10 games over these next 3 weeks, and they go to start that schedule with Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you get those 4 games right away if you have the room. The Islanders have been changing up their lines a little bit. I'm seeing today they're currently playing against the Rangers. It's 1-1. They've been rolling with Lee back with Barzal and Pajot. That's new. Horvat, Nelson, Palmieri. But then I'm also seeing they've had some time with Martin, Palmieri, and McLean. So I guess Palmieri got demoted. So I don't know. I guess we'll see when this game is over. But yeah, lines are in flux. Maybe, if something opens up, it's been for a little while now, Horvat, Barzal, and Nelson, meaning no one else is that interesting. Maybe Palmieri a little bit because he was on the top power play. Now, if they split up those 3 guys, then you start getting a little bit more interested in players having exposure to a Barzal or a Nelson or a Horvat. So something to watch if you really want to dig deep on an Islanders player like a Lee, I don't know, a Pajot if he's on the top line, I guess. I mean, I'm not that excited, as you can tell, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can tell you're not that excited. And you're right to be not that excited. I'm seeing if there's anything else. I think exposure is the name of the game for the Islanders. I guess Noah Dobson is on his longest cold snap of the season, which means he had a 3-game pointless streak. Then he pointed on Saturday against Ottawa, and not on the board yet in 12 and a half minutes of ice against the Rangers. So we'll see if he can start getting up and running. But it's pretty crazy that Noah Dobson, like that was his first 3-game drought this year, and only the third time he's gone pointless for even consecutive games. What a season.
He's incredible. Let's go to San Jose next, who are going to play next week. I guess I'm just, for everyone, I'll just tell you what the schedule is for next week. That's what I've been doing. They're also, again, I'll let you know what, by the way, listeners, when we're done with the teams that play 10 times. We're going to have a few teams at the end that only have 3-3-3 games, only 9 games over your playoffs. So those will be the teams to maybe start to avoid. But next week, San Jose is just a boring old Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, though they have a couple guys just keep on producing in Granlund and Zetterlund. And I feel like they're both still like widely available on Yahoo. I would definitely have those two up with who was the one who I just said I liked even more than Duclair and Neil. Oh, Slavkovsky. I think I might like a Granlund and Zetterlund more than Slavkovsky, or at least in that same conversation. Like San Jose doesn't score that many goals, but when they do, it's one of them, it seems.
It's crazy that Zetterlund is like still hot. Like we pointed him out. It must have been a couple weeks. Like there's been another moment of the season where he's been good and good enough to have. But yeah, Zetterlund's been doing great with top line, top power play deployment, as much as you can call it a top line and top power play with the personnel there. And Elon, I'm gonna we have a lot of agreements on this episode, which is nice. I'm gonna absolutely agree that Zetterlund belongs in that same sort of tier as Slavkovsky and Nylander and Duclair. Yeah.
Who used to play on the
Florida Panthers.
Florida Panthers. By the way, I'm looking outside right now.
And
like
San Jose Sharks.
By the way, I'm looking outside right now. It's like a beautiful sunny day. Weather is weird nowadays. I kind of feel like I'm in a video game. Like every time I look out the window, it's different.
I know like it's impossible because we're a podcast, but I would just love if someone tuned in like in that moment and only like listen to those 7 seconds of you talking about the weather and be like, what's going on?
It's a hockey podcast. That's
stick to sports.
It's relevant. The Leafs, and the climate they play in might affect how their players perform. We'll get into that on the next episode. But here we got still more teams to go through. Oh, I am on Toronto next, actually, on this list here. So Toronto is going to give us games on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Saturday, Sunday next week. So like you said, Brian, kind of an interesting schedule with 2 back-to-backs. If you want to grab a Woll or a Samsonov, you're pretty much guaranteed to just get 1 game from each, barring injury. So if you have room, getting 2 guaranteed goalie games, not too bad. Aside from those guys, I guess the Leafs have also been running some strange lines. Also, I mean, just like who was the team that we were just talking about? I don't even remember now. The Islanders, right? We're changing up their lines. Leafs are the same as the Islanders. Marner's been out, so maybe once Marner comes back, everything gets a little normal. Brian, you mentioned that you had added Liljegren. I guess it makes sense. He's been on the top power play recently. That's with Marner out. Obviously, that won't last. Do we have an update? Actually, let me check the latest on Game Day tweets here about Marner. No update on Marner. This is from a couple days ago. Yarncroc week to week in hand. Okay, so no update. Well, that's not great. Then I don't know.
It's not great. I don't like not having an update.
So maybe you're interested in a Liljegren for a little longer. I definitely like anyone on Toronto that's playing on the top power play with Matthews. Yeah.
Yeah, I added Liljegren, and I know you added Jake McCabe. Who would you like? Who are you happy with that choice over Liljegren?
Yeah, I think so. Like Jake McCabe is just like he's like a friend,
Solid.
He's like a solid friend. He's gonna help you move. Liljegren is gonna come by. You ask Liljegren to help you move. Unlikely he will show up. Maybe if he shows up, he brings you pizza, and you're like, oh wow, look at this guy. But
he'll move something light, and then he'll have a pizza.
yeah. McCabe
5
is
shots
doing great
for Liljegren. Oh, we're both talking about the guys that we personally added. Liljegren, 5 shots last night, and now has 4 points in his last 4 games, a goal and 3 assists. And, he only has 20 points this season, which is crazy because 11 of those 20 points have come in his last 12 games I did the math wrong. 12 or 13 games. Yeah. So I don't know if it's if I'm throwing the rest of the season out the window and just calling this a nice run of luck. McCabe has that solid peripheral floor though, as as we were sort of getting at with the moving analogy. So if McCabe were available, I think I would have grabbed him. He wasn't, so I went Liljegren, and I'm not too sad about it.
Yeah, like I said, I am in this important to me matchup in my dynasty league, and the one thing that I'm really frustrated about in Toronto, again, that I need hits, is that I have added this guy Simon Benoit, who was just so reliable and great for these hits, and then ever since the trade deadline, I guess they got Liu Bushkin and they got Joel freaking Edmondson, and now Benoit's been benched every single game. I mean, not to take away. I know I'm making a lot of excuses here. Not to take away from Brandon's, I'm sure, like well-deserved win if he wins, but I'll bet you I would have won if Simon Benoit didn't get benched every game. I would have like 20 more hits. But anyway, let's move on to the next team here I have on my list here. Philadelphia Flyers. We've only got two more teams that have 10 games, and then we'll finish off with the 9 gamers over the next 3 weeks. We haven't taken a break yet. Brian, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. All right, we are back. Brian, oh, okay. Welcome back to Keeping Karlsson. Brian, I want to talk about the Flyers who have 10 games coming up over their next 3 weeks, like all the teams we've been talking about for the last little while. They go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday next week, so check if you can fit in a Flyer. They're kind of also like Seattle, where it kind of just keeps changing, like who's hot and who's cold. Like a couple weeks ago, we were excited about Tyson Forrester. He was getting top line, top power play. He was shooting a lot. He only has like 1 point in 6 games since. So that's a bummer. I dropped him. Maybe he'll go hot again. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, like the non-Tippett Konechny forward that's hot is Morgan Frost. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be another Tyson Forrester and it just won't last. But obviously, we do have to note that Frost has been playing with Tippett and Forrester, actually. But Frost has been getting more power play time lately, and he has now 4 points in his last 3 games after his goal yesterday against Boston. How interested are you in streaming in Morgan Frost with his Tippett exposure and top power play, which will likely change any game now?
Exactly. That's the caveat. And I like the Philly Seattle comparison because it does seem like Seattle, it's always like all these old guys on like their 14th turn, like doing something, or like maybe not old guys, but more journeyman with upside type. And Philly is just like all these guys who have only been on Philly, but they have a pedigree, they have some perceived upside, and maybe they can do something. And Morgan Frost fits that mold, although he's already 24 years old. I hadn't quite realized how old he already is. Yeah. So, yeah, top line, top power play, that's reason enough, and you are looking for that Tippett Konechny exposure.
Another guy that's super old, 23-year-old Cam York. I'll just mention he had 2 assists in the last game. He's been getting top power play for the last 5 games, it looks like. I don't know how Tortorella decides when to swap the defenseman on the top power play, but York has now 5 points in his last 5 games. All assists, but he's been getting big minutes. He played 27 minutes and 18 seconds yesterday against Boston. So, yeah, Cam York might also, if you need a defenseman. I guess we started the show talking about, like, Byram. Then I brought up, what was his, like a Sean Walker. Sorry, everybody. We forget. By the way, I don't know, for the listeners, Brian and I are recording this not at a regular time, earlier in the day. So if you notice anything off about this episode, it's like a whole new, it's like weird. That's why I'm looking outside at the weather. Normally it's dark by the time we record. But yeah, I think Cam York is right there with like a Sean Walker. If you're still thinking about which defenseman to add, I think York is pretty solid for as long as he's on this top power play.
Sorry, I was distracted too. Like someone is like pretty aggressively like ringing my door, which wouldn't happen at our normally recording time. Huh.
Is someone home?
No.
Are you going to just let it go, or are you going to go?
Let me just take a peek.
Oh, boy. Okay. Yeah,
just
good call. Yeah, no, you should. Yeah. 2:24 right now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, we have a lot of teams to go. We'll just do like a little faster. What is there even to say? At this point of the season, who knows? Like, I'll just tell you who's on good lines and who's hot, and then Brian's shirt says no fun. That's funny. I like your shirt. You're muted.
Thanks. I wore it to Costco.
I don't get it.
I don't know. In my mind, I'm like, it seems like an appropriate place to wear it.
I like Costco. I think it's kind of fun.
I have fun at Costco.
All right.
I have a colleague who has like Kirkland signature sweatpants.
Mm-hmm.
And like once I was like, cool sweatpants. And they thought I was teasing them. And now I can't ever. Like I thought that like I actually like that was cool. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna keep going here. Let's do a
Cam
hurry
York.
up offense.
Didn't you ask me a
Oh,
question
yeah.
about
Oh, yeah,
Cam York?
I said he's like
I have like nothing
good
to
guy.
say about like you're covering all there is to say.
I'll just say like, yeah, he's good while he's on the top power play.
Yeah,
You know.
no, I'll do that. That's exactly. Yeah, 5 games for Cam York on the top power play now, and he has a single power play point to show for it, and more even strength points. So that's been good. He doesn't seem to be shooting like there doesn't seem to be a whole lot more coming. He had 5 shots once, but that was against San Jose, where he also had 2 assists. So I'm just gonna leave that there. Desperation move for a lot of desperate talk. I mean, this is a point of the season, right? But top power play. Hey, if he's there, there's a chance. And actually, his blocks are way up. Is something I'm realizing too. He's playing a lot of shorthanded minutes, so he'll help you there as well.
Yeah,
Cam
I
York.
wonder if Sean Walker being out of the picture is opening up more time for Cam York. Okay, Brian, let's go to Winnipeg now. Our final 10 games over the next 3 weeks. Team, the Jets obviously had a big player added to their lineup at the trade deadline. It's Tyler Toffoli, who joined Sean Monahan, and actually they've been playing on a line together along with Ehlers, at least recently, though Bonus has been switching things around. Toffoli had himself a nice game against the Ducks, scoring 2 goals and 5 shots. The other news in Winnipeg is that Velarde is out, so that would be like a pretty solid top 6 of players that you think are definitely going to stick in it. But with Velarde out, now, so it's been Alex Iafallo playing with Connor and Scheifele. We'll see how long that lasts. If you want to go super deep, you can go for an Iafallo. But he did score goals in 2 straight games, had 4 shots against Anaheim. So maybe someone to look at in your super deep leagues. But also Winnipeg, after they play today, they go back to kind of boring schedules when before they had those like that great Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday this week. Yeah, it's just going to be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday next week. But, if you added like an Iafallo for that 4-game week, maybe you're holding just to get another 4 games rather than wasting a move to drop them and swap them for someone similar.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's great coverage of Iafallo. I'm gonna actually just like say good job and move on to just the update on the other new Jets. Sean Monahan not doing much of anything. He's on the top power play unit, so that's something. But that's all there is. And I'm seeing last game actually he only saw like a third of the power play minutes, even though they came alongside the top players you'd expect. But Tyler Toffoli, he's at least shooting. He had 2 goals on 5 shots against Anaheim, and those were his first points in his 3rd game as a Jet. And we'll see if he can keep that up. He played only 12 and a half minutes, but he's on the top power play as well. So I would be looking for more shots and more power play time from Toffoli. And if, obviously it goes without saying, if Iafallo is available, or if Toffoli is available, I prefer him to Iafallo. I think that goes without saying. Also,
Definitely.
Do you know that their names almost anagram to one another? Not quite, but almost.
Oh, okay. That's fun. But okay, that's fun. People may not realize Brian is like a pro Scrabble, like word games person. Brian knows a lot of words and is very good at that stuff. So patrons, test Brian. Throw him little brain teasers and he'll impress you. A fun perk of being a patron of Keeping Karlsson, I guess. Okay, so now we're going to end, Brian, with all these teams that only go 3-3 games over the next few weeks. So these are not the players you're generally going to be targeting, though we got to start with Arizona, who does have 5 off-day games at least. So they'll make up for quantity with maybe some quality of getting games in your lineup. Next week they play Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So if you want to wait until Wednesday, at least then you get guaranteed you'll for sure fit the Wednesday, Friday, maybe the Sunday. Not if you have Brian's roster, of course. Though who are we going to talk about on Arizona at this point? I guess first of all, I have to mention Nick Schmaltz, red hot. This is a guy who was cold at one point. Brian, I remember you traded for him, then you were kind of like disappointed about it. You held on, right? You must be happy right now with how Schmaltz is doing.
I'm very happy with how he's doing right now. Thank goodness.
And then also on the team, well, the frustrating thing, I guess, is like Nick Bjugstad got a shot on the top line with Schmaltz and Keller in the last game versus New Jersey, but he got injured. So I don't think we have an update yet on what's going on with Nick Bjugstad. So I guess those lines will change, and we don't have an update for you right now. The other name I'll just throw out there once again, Gunther keeps rolling. Like Dylan Gunther, if he's still out there for you, come Wednesday, I'd grab him. He's now got 3 points in his last 4 games, takes a good number of shots. He's been on the top power play for a while. I like Dylan Gunther. And I think that, maybe you don't have to rush to get him now, but if he's out there now, he'll probably be out there Wednesday morning, and that would be a great time to go and get him, I think.
Agree. He's not a rush out to get. Elon, can I do a Sean Dursey check on you? I know you've been really disappointed with what he's offered you. He's been so cold.
Yeah.
He has 5 points in his last 21 games. The peripherals are still like, they're okay.
Yeah,
He's
not
still
even
playing on
great.
the top power play, but he just snapped a 6-game pointless drought with an assist against New Jersey.
Woo.
What are you doing with with Jersey at this point?
Yeah, I might drop, to be honest. On Monday, I have some guys that I could bring out of my IR for my cupful matchup. I'll think about it. I did like that assist in the last game, so that's something. He's still on the top.
Maybe it's the start of something. Yeah,
I
still on
mean,
the
he's
top
on the
power
top power
play.
play.
Yeah,
That's the thing. It's like if he got bumped from the top power play, I'd be for sure dropping. Now it's like, I mean, I wish that just Gunther could fit into a D spot for me. I'd rather have him. But yeah, D is hard to come by, so maybe you hold, but definitely makes total sense to drop. I should mention also Vade Melka had a big game on Saturday. He's been kind of decent lately, so maybe it's not going to be. I don't want to like
he.
now,
Well, no, he and Ingram have been in a rotation for the last little while.
yeah. So I just like for those of you who might still be like with this outdated idea that Ingram is the starter, like I think at this point it's probably like you say like a rotation. Maybe Vaymelka is the most exciting one right now, though Vaymelka had a couple good games in the past, just to then have a couple of really big stinkers. So hard guy to rely on this year. Next up, let's go to Dallas, another 3-3 team over the next 3 weeks. The big news out of Dallas is Wyatt Johnston is going insane. Goals in 4 straight, up to 10 points in his last 6 games. Meanwhile, Matt Duchene, who was doing so well for so long, super cold right now. If like, are we at a point now where like Johnston is the guy you want on Dallas for the rest of the season over Matt Duchene if you have the option for both? Like if you look at their lines, Johnston's been playing with Ben and Stankoven, Duchene playing with Marchment and Steele. I wonder if Sagan's injury is
Yeah,
what's been hurting Duchene.
I feel like that interfered with like some kind of chemistry. I mean, they were both performing more than like we might have anticipated them keeping up. But still a lot of it, as we've talked about them through the year, a chunk of it was sustainable. And it's like with Sagan out, they didn't like find a new place for Duchesne. Or they did. They didn't replace Sagan. They just moved Duchesne. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. But yeah, he's been cold. And I think a lot of it has to do or might have to do with Sagan out. The shots are still healthy, though. Duchesne has no goals on his last 18 shots in 5 games. And like normally we'd expect a couple, and then he'd have 4 points in 5 games. So I don't think he's like down and out for the count. But I also see the possibility that playing with Sam Steele and Mason Marchment isn't a fantastic place to be at 5-on-5 and with no meaningful power play time at that.
Okay, so next let's go to the LA. No. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely frustrating for people who were getting all those great returns from Duchesne to get nothing now as they head into their playoffs. Yeah, but Wyatt Johnston, like we've talked about it before, this Dallas team is going to be so good for so long if they have like a guy not even on the top power play on a hot run like this, and you know that he's like good enough to keep it up somewhat at least just because of his raw talent. Next up over in Minnesota, first of all, Marc-Andre Fleury has been playing all the games. Brian, it sounds like you're still not convinced that'll continue since you were not considering him to add when you need a goalie. Do you think that it's just a matter of time before Gustafsson? I guess there's a back-to-back coming up and things can change, but Fleury, like, what a fun season for him at, like, what is he, 39, 38 years old? He's a very big inspiration for us old people out there.
Yeah, all you old people who can't remember how old anybody is. Oh, just old. Like that's the part of your life. For what it's worth, Marc-Andre Fleury is playing in his age 39 season.
Gotcha.
But his birthday, is in November. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So what's the deal with Fleury and Gustafsson? Well, Fleury started 3 in a row, and Fleury hasn't started 3 in a row since Gustafsson was actually injured earlier this calendar year. And no other point has Fleury started 3 in a row. So this is this seems like a change. Gustafsson wasn't awful in the last action he saw. He lost 2-1 to Colorado. He made it to overtime. He stopped 39 of 41. So he was excellent actually. And Fleury's stopped. Well, he only saw 16 shots against Anaheim. So I'm curious. I don't know, Elon, where this is going. between Fleury and Gustafsson, but I think I'll just keep watching to see if like when Gustafsson's next start is, and if you are I don't think there are very many people holding Gustafsson, but even like for a timeshare situation, I would say like first point to take from this is you can cut him, and then we'll see if the second point to take from this is that Fleury is a must roster.
Yeah, it's actually been 4 in a row now for Fleury, and he just had a great game against St. Louis, only led in 2 goals on 37 shots I'm seeing. So we'll see. Like I said, there's a back-to-back coming up to start next week on Tuesday, Wednesday. And the way it's been going, I think Fleury might also get the Saturday. So you probably, if he's still out there, you're definitely getting an early game week, and then you could always reassess. If he does well and Gustafsson does badly, then maybe he's someone you continue to hold as he continues to have this great run, because it's like 4 quality starts in his last 5 games. Over in 5 games, Joel Eriksson Ek has still been out, by the way, which is obviously very frustrating for people who rostered him because he was so incredible all season long. Looks like Ryan Hartman has been the guy getting on the top line with Kaprizov. He's on a little roll right now. So for as long as Eriksson Ek is out, definitely Hartman becomes a lot more interesting, because Kaprizov is obviously the big name and he just continues to be incredible. And you want anyone playing with Kaprizov at this point right now with Hartman who might be out there for you.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. All right, Brian, next, let's go to Vancouver. This is like, what do I say here? Like, Elias Lindholm, by the way, has been so bad. We've already talked about it. It's just surprising to me, like, how bad Elias Lindholm has been.
Yeah.
Now he's been demoted to the 3rd line. Like, there's how do you hold Elias Lindholm at this point? I
Wasn't
think
a
he's
fit.
an easy drop.
The pro scouting didn't work out in that case. There's something's gone wrong. So yeah, Elon, I was actually just thinking, like, I don't know if it would have been possible, but like, what if Vancouver still had Bo Horvat? Isn't it crazy?
They'd be great. That would be good for them.
It. Like so many times, like these players change teams, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going like to a better situation. It's like Karlsson every time he moves.
I mean, I don't know if could Vancouver like afford the contract that Horvat got?
I assume there was probably they were at risk of losing him for nothing. They weren't going to offer him enough to sign, because they had all these bad contracts on the books. I hate to rub this in. Like, Vancouver has turned the corner in management, it seems. And that was just like one last kick in the pants for previous mistakes. Hopefully the last one.
Yeah. Another name I'll just throw out there on Vancouver is lately it's been Ilya Mikheyev playing with Miller and Besser, and he has points in 2 straight. So we've sung the song before. That never seems to go anywhere, but 2 points in 2 straight, playing with 2 good players. Worth a mention on keeping Karlsson. I'm not rushing to grab him, especially with a meh schedule coming up. So
agree.
I think, I could just move on from there. Let's go to the
concur.
Boston.
We're going to get a lot of agreements over the last, 4 teams? 5 teams?
Yeah, I think so. Well, this one's actually, I have a question for you, Brian.
Okay.
So you can't just say agree. But over on Boston, they've got a bunch of guys on hot streaks. Pavel Zacha is scorching right now. DeBrusk is doing really well. Charlie Coyle just scored 2 goals in Boston's last game. So kind of similar to my question I asked you about Columbus before. Aside from Pastrnak and Marchand, who is the Bruin that you want the most going into your fantasy playoffs? If you could have any Bruin forward that's not Pasta or Marchand, who do you want at this point?
I'm going to surprise myself here. Like, I can't ignore that Jake DeBrusk is defying all the trash I've talked about him this season, at least lately. But everything looks really good from him. I mean, a lot of goals, but a lot of assists to come with them. And DeBrusk also has 15 shots in his last 3 games. So give me DeBrusk. Elon, do you see anyone who you would take ahead of him?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because like it's Zacha and Coyle on the top power play, right? So that's what makes it a little complicated. The latest lines were Marchand with Coyle and DeBrusk, and then Pastrnak with Zacha and JVR. Zacha has now 10 points in his last 7 games.
Yeah, sorry, I flew past Zacha. I thought I had heard you say him with Marchand and Pastrnak, but you didn't.
Okay, so you would take Zacha first ahead of DeBrusk?
Yeah, I think I'd take him for the top line, top power play. Sorry, no. Yes.
Well, Charlie Coyle's also getting, great deployment in on the power play.
Yeah, but
that's why it's hard. It's a hard question.
It's a hard question. It's a hard question. But
maybe
Coyle's production is more sporadic, but worth rostering, sure. Yeah, but I would go Zacha and then DeBrusk and then Coyle.
Okay, well, someone's now going to ask you to apologize to Coyle after this episode, probably after he scores a goal.
I can't wait to leave that joke behind after this season is over.
I like it.
Oh, like I think it's funny. Oh, sorry. I actually like it. I just wonder. I'm concerned that anyone else is tired of it.
I
That's all.
see. Okay.
I
I
wonder
won't
if the
bring it up
guy
again.
who wrote us asking me to apologize still listens. If
I
he's heard any of the
feel
apologies.
I guess we can go check on Twitter. I think maybe he responded. But okay, we got to move on to the Calgary Flames. As we round this out, we're going to go Calgary, Detroit, Vegas, and Chicago. Over on Calgary, this is actually something that if I was just going based on fantasy relevant news, I might have started the show with. Like Dustin Wolf has come in with Markstrom injured and has been really good in his last couple games. Super high pedigree guy, expected to be a big star in the league like for years to come. And he had his first game earlier this year and it wasn't that good. And we're like, womp, but like anyways, Wolf is really starting to settle in here, only letting one goal against Vegas and then letting 2 goals in the win against Calgary on 38 shots. So I think Calgary should just ride him, not Vladar, like until Markstrom's back. So I would be interested, and it's already confirmed apparently that Wolf is going to play Monday. So you're getting a game right away if you want to add him against Washington, and then you can go from there. But he's someone that I'd be very interested right now.
Yeah, you said the win against Calgary, but it was against Montreal.
No, I said he's scheduled to play
No,
Calgary.
before that. I'm just. It's okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we don't really. Okay. Let me just say that. Let's do that again.
Wait.
Just to quickly check, you said he won against Calgary on the other night, but it was Montreal. Vladar, yeah, like I don't see why play Vladar at this point. He had a couple rough outings, but they were against Carolina and Colorado, so maybe you want to cut him some slack for that. And Dustin Wolf hasn't seen like quite the same. Well, he saw Vegas and Colorado, but only for one period and 3 shots. And Montreal, I don't know. I would like. Well, sorry. I would like to see Calgary run Dustin Wolf out as many times as possible while Markstrom is out. But I don't know if they will. So I like that he's already slated to start Monday. I assume if he keeps playing well, he'll keep playing, period. Vladar's record through the season is like very spotty. It's pretty rare that Vladar's been able to string consecutive good starts together. It's pretty rare that Vladar's even been able to put up one good start. So yeah, let's go Wolf.
Yeah, woo! I guess it's like Wolf was in the starter net at practice today. So not a guarantee. The coach hasn't confirmed. That's usually a sign that he's going to play.
That's like an 8 out of 10 confirmation.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, I guess also on Calgary, I'll mention it looked like maybe things weren't going to be great for Sharangovich because if you looked at the lines, he's playing on like a third line with Kuzmenko and Dryden Hunt and not getting huge ice time, but it doesn't matter. Like Sharangovich is just like such a good player. Maybe at this point, that doesn't even matter what line he's on. He just continues to scorch. 9 points now in his last 6 games after getting assist against Montreal. Had a goal assist versus Vegas. I don't think I would at this point. I'm not dropping Sharangovich. I don't care what lines I see on game day tweets until he goes cold. I'm in.
Same. Yeah, I'm as confused as you are that Sharangovich continues to be productive. Although, like, maybe you know what? And I liked him in New Jersey, and I thought he had a chance to be good. And then with deployment when he wasn't, I'm like, oh, maybe I should give up on the guy. But now I'm like, I'm on the Sharangovich could be good train again. He's still on the top power play, which is great. He hasn't cashed in on it in a while. Just 1 power play point in his last like 25 games. So maybe there's room, and that would be a way to make up for the fact that Sharangovich is shooting 20% this season on his way to a 61-point pace. You're seeing more than that?
I'm seeing a power play point in the last game, then a power play point on March 9th.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. My bad. I was looking at power play goals. So he's got, 2? If I want to find he's got 4 in his last 23. Which still isn't great. Like, I'd still want more power play production from him, and I could think that's likely. So long as Sharangovich keeps producing and stays on the top power play, stay interested.
Yeah, for sure. And then we already mentioned Miro Manov before. He's on the top power play, so he could be a really good defenseman to stream in. Though you got Monday and then Saturday, Sunday this coming week. So after Monday, maybe he's a tough hold, even if he's doing kind of well and is somewhat interesting. Okay, next up over in Detroit. Reimer had a good game, like I said. We'll see how Alex Lyon does today. He's been really bad, so maybe at this point, I don't know. Whatever. Like, I think until Larkin comes back, there's not that much to be excited about with this team. But Larkin could be back next week, and then maybe Alex Lyon could get back, or maybe he's like lost his confidence. So I'm not sure. I'm not that interested in any Detroit goalie at the moment. And really, yeah, the big thing to watch is just when Larkin comes back and see if this team could get their playoff aspirations like back going again with some wins. They did get that win, like I said yesterday. So maybe it's a start. Lucas Raymond, by the way, has goals in 3 straight after a long cold streak. So anyone who held on to him is happy. Got to imagine that's not especially sustainable, but Lucas Raymond still gets decent deployment. So I'd be happy to have him, but I also just don't expect him to score this much.
Exactly. I'd be happy to have Lucas Raymond, but I also would be sad to have him when he doesn't do anything on my roster, which is like possible. How's who I haven't checked in on? I made that silly Patrick Kane take. And then he did go cold. Or maybe he already was cold. Anyway, he's got points in 3 straight and is still shooting a bunch. So yeah.
I think we were talking about his next 11 games, and I said he would get at least, 8 or 9 points. Trev will let us know. Looks like it might be close. But okay, next up, let's go to Vegas here. We have just Vegas and Chicago to finish this off. Marchessault scores a lot of goals. He's destroyed his career goal high. But at this point, there's not really much to say about Vegas. There's no one new here. We know Marchessault's good. Jack Eichel's having such an amazing season. Like he missed time with injury. I wonder if that's going to make him drop like later in drafts next year. I guess we'll see how the playoffs go, assuming they get in. I think like Eichel would be such a great guy if you can get him like the second round of your draft. He's averaging 4.2 shots per game. That's like back when he was like at his best with Buffalo. I'd be really excited. Assuming I guess there's a bit of an injury risk at this point. He seems to get hurt a lot, but Eichel, yeah, his point per game. Higher even, a lot of shots, everything I like to see. And I feel like no one talks about him as like one of the top guys in the league.
Well, they did. It's just been a long time since he's been both healthy and played like it. Like in spurts that Eichel's been healthy. He hasn't been his full self. So it is nice to see 87 point pace this season so far, which would be Eichel's second best point pace of his career, right after the 2019-20 Buffalo season where he paced for 94 points. That was followed by the ill-fated season where he played only 21 games in Buffalo, who was supposed to be amazing, was not.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then let's finish off, Brian, over in Chicago. What do we say about Chicago? Tyler Johnson has scored in 3 straight. So I guess he's on a hot streak. I'm not going to go and recommend Tyler Johnson.
Okay. Do you know that Philip Kurashev is Swiss?
It's not like I didn't know, but I also don't think I did know. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it sounds reasonable. I'm not surprised by this information.
I guess not. I don't know. It would have been like maybe the 3rd country, 4th, 5th that I would. Anyway, good for Switzerland. He's been good lately. Yeah. He had a 4-point outing against Anaheim and then did nothing against LA. So I guess it's maybe a high risk, high reward kind of play. Although like risk doesn't seem like the right word to describe. We'll probably not do a whole lot, but is playing with Connor Bedard at even strength and on the power play. So he's got that going for him.
Yeah. And so is Tyler Johnson, who's on this hot streak right now. So, and by the way, that game against Anaheim, Connor Bedard, 1 goal, 4 assists, huge game, highlight reel stuff. He's
Crazy.
Great. I can't wait till like Chicago just gets a little better, and then we're just going to see some really exciting stuff from Bedard. I wonder where he's going to get drafted next year.
I'll also put I know we've done this before, but Petr Mrazek is playing well again, for what it's worth. Like by playing well, I mean he's had 2 good starts in a row. So we'll see if he can string another in there.
All right, let's wrap this up. And with that, Brian, we've gone through every team. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Good luck in your fantasy playoffs if you're getting in there. Really excited to see how this season plays out. Like Brian said, a lot of fun actual playoff races. That'll be interesting to watch. And before we know it, we're going to be in the playoffs. If you're a patron of Keeping Karlsson, stay tuned for the Keeping Karlsson playoff pool, our annual tradition, which is always a ton of fun. We'll be announcing how to get in on that, I don't know, soon. Obviously, right now we're focusing on our fantasy playoffs. Yeah, if you like the episode, we'd love a 5-star review. If you want to follow us on Twitter, I don't know, we don't tweet that much, but we do tweet out when new episodes come out, which I guess is useful. And, once in a while say something else. But yeah, check out GameDayTweets.com. I've been working hard on that, Brian. I added a new feature. I've been working hard on my goalie guesses. It's like, obviously, like if a tweet comes out, then we obviously show that, and you could see exactly who's going to be starting. And Shams is always there if I'm not to right away update as soon as it's been announced which goalie's going to play. But I think our guesses are getting pretty good. Like I think our guesses are almost always right, and now I even have a reason beside the guesses, so you can see. So I'd love for anyone, by the way, if you're ever like browsing game day tweets and you see a goalie guess for a game that you disagree with, you think it's like obviously not going to be that goalie, please like let me know. Tag me on Discord or something so I can go and look into why, because I'd love for it to be almost perfect. But anyways, what was I saying? So thanks for listening. Brian, I guess let's cue the outro music. Why don't you go ahead and read us the credits?
All right. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our super supporters. I think we have a brand new one as of a few days ago. So thanks. You know what? Let me actually get that. Hang on. I'll just start that over, okay? Okay. All right. All right. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our super supporters, who, by the way, thank you, Brian, not me, I swear, for being our newest super supporter, as well as Lucas, Top Cheese, Roman, Don, Michael, Jordan, Patrick, Aaron, Philip, Ivan, Sammy, Andrea, Zach, Tom, Ryan, David, Dusty, Ricard, and Patty. Thank you all for your support. Thanks to all our patrons for their support. Thank you, Kevin A. Bear, our couple coordinator, for doing such a fantastic job keeping things running smoothly and all the bots in line. Thank you, Elon and Shams, for all the work at GameDayTweets.com. Follow our Short Shifts crew on Twitter at ShortShiftsKK. Logo art by BrandonWeeb.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dobber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoldies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Awesome. Thanks, Awesome. Great job as always, Brian. Thanks so much. Looking forward to doing this all again with you next week. And in the meantime, of course, we'll have a couple fun short shifts to listen to. If you didn't hear it, listen to Jeremy's matchup maximizer from yesterday. But Brian, while we're waiting for all this content to see how these fantasy playoffs shake out, what should we do? Tell me. I need to know.
Invite some folks in to play fantasy like join a playoff pool with you, and just maybe some who haven't played before, who haven't felt welcome before. That's just one thing you could do to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone.
Woo! All right. Thanks a lot, pal. Good show.
It's so weird recording at this time. It's gonna change the whole trajectory of my day.
Well, now enjoy your time off. Just don't forget, send me that file. And I don't know when I'm going to do this, but hopefully some point soon. Now I'm putting the baby to bed tonight. I hope it goes well.
Good luck. And thanks, Matthew, in the chat.
Yeah, thanks so much.
And
See you,
King.
everybody.
All right.
Bye, pal.
And Shams. And everybody who's there. Andrea, too. Okay, bye. Thank you.
See you.